The Drop with Frank and Brian is officially brought to you by Switch Suspension. Switch Suspension specializes in all vehicle chassis components. Lift kits, lowering kits, air ride suspension, wheels, tires, steering, and brake upgrades. They use all the best products from the best brands. And these guys are truck guys. You roll into their parking lot at the shop and they all drive custom vehicles. So they use their products that they sell on their own vehicles. So if you guys are looking for anything for your vehicles, whether you're just starting out or you just need some replacement parts or whatever, give them a call or visit their website, switchsuspension.com.
Hope you enjoyed this episode of The Drop. If you like these podcasts and all the other content we create, head on over to our websites and purchase merch. Purchasing merch keeps us going and creating more content. Our websites are grinder-tv.com and livelifecustom.com. We really appreciate it. Now on to the episode.
Okay, we're recording.
All right. We good?
I think so.
Recording?
What do you think?
Recording.
Recording.
Okay. Welcome to this week's episode, The Drop with Frank and Brian. We're going, right?
Yeah, no, we're good.
Okay, you're just looking at me like I'm doing it wrong. Welcome to this week's episode, The Drop with Frank and Brian. We're sitting here with Nick Crouch, Surface DVD, Surface Nick artwork, many monikers?
You name it, I do it.
Yes, there we go. Okay, so we're sitting down with Nick here in his cool spot with all this awesome artwork. We got fed homemade pizza before the episode.
Yes.
Which is not the first time a guest has given us food, but the first time it's been...
They've made us
made
food.
It with love and care, and it was delicious.
It was. Milan bought us Jack in the Box, but step your game up, guess.
Yeah, come on. Well, we got a couple of them coming this week, so we'll see.
Yeah.
They won't be able to top me.
No.
I don't think so.
No.
Ronnie's,
and if they do, we'll just come back.
Ronnie's going to give us like a piece of beef jerky.
And a Miller Lite.
And a Miller Lite. But anyway, yeah, so we're sitting down here with Nick.
Finally.
It's been a while. We've had the whole Surface crew on.
Which is
some more than others.
Which is kind of funny.
Which is also a kind of an inside joke.
It's also kind of yeah.
But yeah, so this is the first time we've had Nick on. So
Yeah.
what's up, Nick?
I'm glad to be on. It's good to see you guys.
Yeah, it's fun. It's really cool. I don't think I've ever actually you guys have a relationship. I don't think you and I have actually really talked much ever, to be honest with you.
Because you're based out of California too.
Well, yeah, I'm based out of California, but I mean, I've been to a lot of shows out here, and you've been to a lot of shows out there, and we've always sort of like existed in this space, but kind of like existing around.
Yeah, you know? Missing each other, kind of.
Yeah. So this is the first time I've actually sat down and talked to you. So it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I guess we'll start with just tell us about Nick.
Yeah, just kind of. I don't know if you want to how far you want to go back. Because I'm really interested in the current Nick Crouch, because I've known the old Nick Crouch and what you guys did with Surface and all that stuff. But I'm really fascinated with what you're doing now.
Okay.
So, but I don't know if you just want to kind of start at the beginning to kind of.
Yeah, I can give a brief rundown of how things started. I met Will Freeman and Lindsay Freeman a long time ago in high school. We became really good friends, and we were sitting around watching people make DVDs. We got into the car stuff back then. That was 2002, 2003. And then as we got into the car scene more and watching more DVDs, we decided we could make our own DVD. And we felt we could bring stuff to the table that other people weren't doing.
Yeah.
And that brought us to traveling a bunch. We got into taking pictures at shows, filming at shows. And all along, I've been doing renderings for people that are building their vehicles. And I'm still doing that to this day. And a lot of stuff has happened in between then and now. Basically, if it involves art and involves cars, I'm doing it in some sort of way.
The journey that you went on early, back in the early part of all of this, so did art come? Obviously, the art came before the cars.
Yeah, I've been drawing since I was a kid, and Will is the one who got me into cars. He introduced me to Photoshop, I think in 2001. And he's like, hey, let's change the color on our personal vehicle. Let's see what our vehicle would look like in a different color or with these bumpers on it. And I think he messed with his car, I messed with my car, and then one of our friends was like, oh, can you do my car next? Like, I want to see what my car looks like in this color. And it just kind of snowballed from there. And I think I've done probably 600 renderings since then. And I do shirt designs for people now, for a lot of car shows, car club stuff, shops, all kinds of stuff. I'm actually doing some really cool stuff currently right now that I'll probably get into a little bit later.
Cool.
Yeah. So that was like one of the main, like, because we put it out there, we said, you know, does anybody have any questions for Nick, or like, you know, what do they want to know about you? And a few of the people had said, like, what's your main thing? Like, what's your main gig?
Because, so I became self-employed like in 2005, and it's kind of scary because you don't know where your income's going to come from. So I kind of take on anything. If it pays, like, I'll look into it and see if it's something I can do, or something that I can offer.
When you do that, do you ask yourself capability and want? Because like if the money's the higher the money, the more money, the want kind of.
Yeah, like you can get convinced into doing something if the pay is good, even if it's something you don't want to do. I prefer to do mostly stuff that I want to do, though. Like, if it's something I don't enjoy doing, I won't advertise that I can do it. Yeah. Like, I could technically do anything, but there's a lot of stuff that I just don't have fun doing, so I just don't do it.
Yeah, because then it just takes more time.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to sit down and do it.
But yeah, like, I can hand draw. I do a lot of stuff in Photoshop. I mean, I make logos for people. I do car wraps.
Because you've had like other jobs, so to speak.
Yeah,
like you work for other shops.
I do part-time jobs like on and off every now and then, just because like maybe a good opportunity might come up, and I'll be like, oh, I'll work there a couple of days a week. Like right now, I'm working 2 days a week at a wrap shop, and so I get access to their large format printer, so I can print stuff whenever I want. Plus, it's just nice to have like extra money on the side that you know is going to be there.
That you know is going to be there. Yeah, exactly. It's a pretty important thing.
Because it was kind of sketchy through, what was it, like 2008 when the market crashed?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like the show scene died down a little bit, so like income, like some people weren't building vehicles, and so I wasn't getting rendering requests.
Yeah.
And
because you kind of figure something out.
When it comes to that stuff, there's always the people that, like, people don't need a rendering to build a car, but they'll take that $500-600 or whatnot. And you know what I mean? Because they're like, well, rendering it's one of those where it's like it's not needed to a point.
It's the very first step too. So some people put it off.
Yeah.
They'll be like, oh, maybe I'll get the rendering next year. Maybe I'll wait a year to start on this car.
Yeah. So they get it right before they want to start on it or something.
Well, we talk a lot about like planning out a build and having a good plan going into building something. So that's like a real first step thing, is to come up with like a rendering. And so do you find some people think that like, oh, I don't need that. I don't need a rendering. And then the people who choose to do that kind of go off the path a little bit, and you're like, yeah, see, maybe you needed some sort of direction.
I've actually never. I know there are people that don't do renderings, like what's his name at Extensive. He never gets renderings for any of the builds he's doing.
Yeah.
He likes doing stuff like as it happens, like spur of the moment. He wants to make it up as he goes. I've never met somebody who was like, no, I don't need a rendering. It's either you already know you want one, or you don't need one and you don't ask for one.
So there's no one like. Everybody who seeks you already knows that they want that, and they have that part of their plan. And
what's crazy is what I find interesting is some people learn that they need a rendering.
Oh, okay.
They're like, oh, I'm thinking about getting one, and then I'll point out something, and they're like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Like, I definitely need one now. Like, if you're unsure on paint color, or if you're unsure on wheels, it's just like a click of a button for me versus spending like $5,000 on wheels and then realizing you don't like them.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just nice to see both options and be able to share it with somebody and be like, what do you think of these two colors or whatever?
Yeah.
But I think the main concern that I've noticed is when you take it to a shop and get it built, you're like, here's what it needs to look like.
I see.
And if they don't make it look like you're rendering, then you have reason to like pursue other avenues to get it taken care of.
When in the rendering process, because a lot of people hit me up, hey, who do I go for a render? Who do I? And I always send them your way, you know. And is there do you help people in the design process, or do you make like, do they tell you like, I want this, this, and this, or do you also offer like some insight on things?
It would be nice if I would get more clients that just said, here's my car, make it something that you would want. Oh, okay. It'd be nice if I got more stuff like that. A majority of the time, people already have an idea of what they want, and they just need my help to put it on paper.
Yeah.
Occasionally along the way, they'll be like, well, what's your opinion on these two things? Like, should I chrome this part, or should this part get painted? And often I'll be like, well, let's just see what it looks like. And then they can decide which way they want to go. And sometimes they'll ask for my recommendation, and they'll go with it.
Yeah. I'm currently battling that with my truck now, because it's white with silver wheels. So I'm just like, what am I going to do with the grill? What am I going to do with the bumper? Like, it's already all put together, so it's a little bit easier, but I'm just like, I can't just go full chrome, because it's not, to me, it's not going to look right. So
what's weird is, because I've been using Photoshop for so long, it's been like almost 25 years, if I have any question on anything, like it could be like the paint color of a wall in a bedroom, I'll be like, well, let's Photoshop it real quick. Because I can't decide, and I don't want to invest the time into something and then realize I don't like it. So I Photoshop stuff all the time.
That's awesome. It's just like second nature now.
Yeah, it's like at my fingertips. I can like, if somebody wanted to see what they look like with different hair, like a Photoshop different hair on them.
That's awesome. Do you start your process like sketching something out and then turning it into like digital? Is that like, how does your process work?
That's what I was gonna ask. Yeah, like sketching versus digital and stuff. It
depends on what I'm making. If it's a car rendering, it's almost always done on the computer. And like, worst case scenario, if somebody has like 10 wheels that they want to try out, sometimes I'll just copy paste the wheel on there, not put any shadows on it, nothing. I'll be like, choose from these 10 now, and then whichever one you like, that's the one I'll
put the extra effort in
to make it look real. When it comes to like stuff like this, though, a lot of times I'll do like a 10-minute sketch of it real quick, just to make sure, because some of these are hand drawn. And once I put ink down and somebody wants to change something, I basically have to redraw it.
Oh, I see.
And most of these are inked, and then I scan it into the computer and I color it in Photoshop.
Gotcha.
Just so you have that option to change the colors and stuff.
Yeah, so colors are a lot easier for me to change, but the ink process. And the only reason I'm doing them in ink is because ink's faster than drawing them on the computer.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So like, do you use a tablet or anything like that?
I used to use a tablet to draw everything, like a tablet screen, so you could actually physically see what you're drawing at the same time.
with a pen, right? Like,
yeah, and the screen that I was using was too hot, so now I just use a basic tablet where you have to look at the screen while you're drawing.
Oh, is that?
But I do draw on.
So you draw on a thing, and then while you're looking at.
Yes.
Does that take some time to get used to like, or is it adapt pretty quickly?
No, honestly, it's just like using a mouse. Like, you don't have to look at your hand when you use a mouse, and it's the same deal. It's like a mouse, but it's really fine point because it's like a pen.
Yeah.
Is that something that you recommend?
For anyone who's using Photoshop or Illustrator or anything, almost everyone uses a tablet when they do that stuff. Yeah. It actually, when I was doing video editing, the tablet came in handy because it's faster and more accurate than a mouse, so I can cut clips a lot quicker. I can move stuff around, like pinpoint,
like with a pen. Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah. One of the coolest videos that I remember that you guys made, it was, I forget what DVD it was for, but it was you guys included a time-lapse video of you creating the back cover art. It had like a blue C10 on it.
Yeah, that was Mark Barbie's C10, I think.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I still sometimes go watch that video just because it's so fascinating to see you go through the process, starting from like the sketched out surface and then taking blocks and turning it into...
Yeah. So in that video that you're talking about, I went out and did like a photo shoot of it and then changed the background to be like underneath the freeway overpass. But yeah, like I handmade the logo in Illustrator, and then all the rest of it was all done in Photoshop. I don't often record my Photoshop work because it's kind of hard to do like screen captures that way. So that's one of the few times that you'll actually get to see the whole process.
Yeah,
of how
no, it was
everything
really
works.
fascinating.
There's tons and tons of layers and everything, and I leave stuff in layers because I get a lot of customers who are like, well, can we move this building around or
Right.
whatever you want to do? And so it's nice to be able to just like make something disappear or put something in its place and see how it looks. You can adjust colors and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's really cool to see like the behind the scenes of it, because also Fuel does it. Like didn't you just recently do something like that where you uploaded I think it was like the Maggie Valley shirt.
Oh yeah, Daniel will
The process of drawing it. And
he'll
stuff.
screen capture like not the whole thing, the whole process, but like some of it because it fills the computer up really fast when you're screen capturing stuff. So
Yeah, because it can like if you're doing like one of these designs, I could spend like 10 hours on
Yeah.
it, and to do a screen capture of 10
Oh yeah,
hours,
that'd
it's
be a
just-
lot of.
Yeah.
That'd be a big file.
yeah, they're huge files. But yeah, he'll do little stuff but I've done like time lapses of him when I would go down there and like film him doing stuff.
Yeah, I remember like a Forbidden shirt too. It was like the 2012 Forbidden shirt.
And my Tacoma too, that rendering that
Oh,
I have
yeah.
of my Tacoma
Mhm.
when he drew that.
Mm-hmm.
So going kind of back so you got into the truck stuff, got into kind of the truck club stuff, and then when you started to like, when did you kind of realize like, okay, this is like serious income? Like how did that process or how did that timeline work out?
I was fortunate enough that I was making just enough to pay the bills back when stuff was cheap. It's a little more difficult right now
Mm-hmm.
because at the same time I try to make myself affordable.
Yeah,
I
because
don't-
there's certain things that cost the same now as they did back
Mhm,
then.
mhm.
Like a DVD was always $20. Like
Yeah.
it never went up. A T-shirt was always it's
Yeah.
$20, $25. Like once you start, you can't raise the price of that stuff, but you can with meat and gas and all that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But like when I started becoming self-employed, stuff was cheap, and I also wasn't saving money.
Mm-hmm.
So I was making enough money to pay the bills doing my art, and so I was like, well, I don't need to work then.
Did you have a 9 to 5 that you were?
When I first started, well, actually I was working a full-time job and doing art on the side.
Yeah.
And then eventually I got overwhelmed, and
With
then
art?
doing both.
Just.
And I was like, well, I like doing the art more, so I should probably quit the job because the art is paying the bills, so I don't even need the job.
Yeah.
It was very scary when I first did it, but I mean, it just fuels you to like work harder so that you can keep doing it.
That transition always fascinates me because how old were you when you did that?
That was probably in 2005 when I like quit my first job
Wow.
to do art. It was probably 20 years
Yeah.
ago, so I was probably about 21.
Yeah, so that's pretty young. So your responsibility level is a little bit different. Like,
Right. It's
Yeah,
just-
like I think rent, food,
Yeah.
and gas was like maybe $500
Yeah.
for everything. I was like, well, I can do maybe a couple renderings
Yeah.
at that time.
It's a pretty intense thing to like not know where your next paycheck is.
It's very scary.
It is like
But like you're saying back then, like
back then, but
you had a little more leeway.
Yeah.
yeah,
To get away with things. You could imagine that.
and
now.
less responsibility.
Yeah, oh,
Like,
yeah, for
like,
sure.
you didn't mind having roommates or living with someone.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, like I don't want a roommate or I don't want, you know what I mean? So like you need to figure out how you can do it
Yeah.
and also be like a grown up.
but doing it for so long now, like that probably you don't really think about that anymore because you've done it for so long.
Like you know that the
Like,
next
you-
thing is coming for sure.
Right.
Yeah, like I've never put out ads to bring in more work. It's almost always been word of mouth and always at least 4 weeks out for me. Like I think I've caught up once
No, really?
in my entire like career of doing this where I didn't have anything to do. Maybe that's only happened maybe one time.
Yeah.
Wow.
But then it just restarts right back up.
Yeah, but there have been slow times where the buffer gets smaller and smaller. I'm like, well, I don't have anything to do next week, and all of a sudden work starts filling back up again.
Yeah, it always seems to work out that way. And it's really interesting to explain that to somebody because like with my business with screen printing and stuff, when I meet someone new, they go like, oh, what do you do? it's like, oh, I do screen printing, and they're like, and naturally the next question is like, oh, I have the landscaping company. How much for T-shirts? And it's hard to explain to them, like, well, look, I don't need to do your work. Like, I have this whole network of people that I built over the last 25 years. So like it's the same similar thing for you. Like, you don't need to go out and knock down doors.
Yeah.
You already built this network of people that you can tap, or they come to you and tap you. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's always interesting talking to someone, and then they look at you. They're like, well, you don't want the work, and it's like, well, that's not necessarily it.
It has a lot to do with dealing with clientele that you've dealt with for years, and you're like, well, I can save myself a couple hours of conversation by taking on this previous customer's work because I already know how they want things done and they already know how I do it. And because of that, you can get things done quicker with clients like that.
Yeah.
I've got a handful of like large clients that I deal with on a regular basis where I don't have to take on as many of the individual small projects. Oh, okay.
And that's like an ebb and flow too. Like, as those companies demand, work done, and then they don't need it, and
exactly. It's there are months where maybe I'll make $1,000 in a month, and then there are months where I'll maybe make like 10 grand in a month, and it always seems to balance out in a way that I continue to trust that the income will keep coming.
It was scary for me. I did it a little bit later in life, but I remember getting to points where I was like, okay, there was a recent time, and I forgot exactly what it was, but it was like, I think we were still living at the El Mirage house, and I was like, I don't know what's next. Like, there was always a time where I kind of knew what was next, but there was this like week, and I was like, I don't even know, and it's just this feeling comes over you, but there was never the feeling of I need to go get a job.
Yeah,
it was just this feeling of, is this going to keep happening? And then
exactly
someone hits you up on a text and like, hey man, need a video done, need some photos. It's like, and then it just starts right back.
I've had
up.
to not explain. I don't want to say explain like I know everything, but I've had to like tell that to people who have just like they're the other opposite. So they've recently, later in their life, started their own thing and got into it, and they feel like their back is against the wall. And it sounds almost like a cop out when you're like, don't worry, it's going to work out. Trust me, it's going to work out. Yeah. But from their perspective, like, no, it's not. Like, I have, like you said, I have a week, but it always, I don't know.
As long as you know what you're doing, I think. Like,
my suggestion for those people is to keep a part-time job. Like, if you can keep a job that pays you just enough to pay the bills, and then do this on the side, so that you don't get overwhelmed trying to do a full-time job this.
I could see where that would be.
And then eventually you can gradually work your way out of the part-time job if it gets busy, or fall back into another part-time job.
Because you can always get a part-time job. It's not going to be a glorious part-time job,
right?
But someone's always hiring part-time enough to where like you could at least make most like your rent or whatever, because the food, you can buy food on your good month and save it for you.
When I do start to slow down, I like making artwork that I sell on my web store. Like, I like selling prints of stuff that I want to make. Like I'll get a cool idea, like a truck running over zombies or something. I'm like, no one's asking for me to do that, so like I'll make that on my own and see if it sells on my website.
How does that go for you? Does that do all right? Because don't really push that your site and stuff, or how, like, do you push it when you think when it's a little slow?
I try not to repost stuff a lot. I know a lot of people do, and that's how you sell things. I don't like being that person.
Exactly how you feel.
I'm the same way with
and I'm trying to be like a little more like kind of brazen about that, like, because I at the other side of it, I'm like, no, this is exactly how I make money, so I have to do this. So
I've now what I've started doing is just taking cool screen grabs or photos and putting that photo in the story, and then like buy merch here. So it's kind of like,
I noticed that.
It's a photo and a cool thing, but it's also like my website's here. So like instead of putting the shirt there and going buy the shirt here,
I'd like that to be a majority of my income, because I would much rather make whatever I want to make and then make my money off reprints, because it's like zero work for me. I can just go print something and ship it, and it's done. The only way I find myself wanting to reintroduce people to old work is if I offer it in like a different format or something. Like, oh, you can get these in banners now, and I'll repost it that way. But I don't want to be one of those people that posts the same piece of art every single week.
Oh yeah,
because eventually you might start losing followers that way.
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. So that was going to be like one of my follow-up things is like, what do you enjoy doing the most? It seems like you just enjoy doing like original art, no matter what it is.
If I was selling more prints, I would much rather just make whatever I want and hope that people want to buy.
Just because you have
copies
like
of it.
more freedom.
Exactly.
Like, you don't have someone telling you like, oh, I want
just
this,
like
I want
making
this.
creative stuff that's like a lot of the stuff I'll make is stuff that you can't really
do a Google search for.
You can't get a picture of it.
Yeah.
Like my car, my Mercury dragging down the street. Like I can't really get that photo somewhere, so I want to make it. Or like a UFO chasing a car. Like you can't get that anywhere else.
Yeah,
right.
And that's things that I like too. Like that's kind of like I always talk about Pinstripe Chris. He would do. That guy would just wake up, do a piece of original art, put prints up for like a week or 2 weeks or whatever, sell the original art, and then move on to the next one. It's like, that just seems like an artist's like goal.
Well, we've always also said that it's as people who are not like talented in that capacity, how you can just get up and just like, oh, I'm gonna make a Mercury dragging in front of a city today.
There's and you can sell that, right? So like I could wake up in the morning and go, I'm gonna make a reel of this truck cruising that I got at a show, and I make the reel and it's a minute long, and I can't sell that original piece.
Oh yeah.
And copies of it. I have to put that on the internet and hope that it gets shared around and hope that brings attention to my website. There's no physical form there.
A lot of that stuff for me comes to like if I'm driving somewhere and I imagine something, that usually stays in my head, and I'll come home and try to recreate it on the computer.
Yeah.
So like, oh, that would be cool if this car was driving right next to me, or if it was like framed this way. And I'm like, I can never take a picture like that. So let's go make it on the computer.
Yeah.
That's usually what happens with me.
Kind of to go back on an earlier thing, like when did you realize that you could do that? Like, was it like, is it something that you're just like naturally good at when you're a kid? Like you can draw well, and then like you're like, okay, well, yeah, I can draw this pretty well. Like I can copy this thing, but like you said, I want to add this. Was there ever? Do you remember a point where you're like, hey, this is pretty good. Like, I can do this pretty good.
And what was the effort to get to that point? Because some people are just like super fast and they're just like, and then like me, when it comes to videos, like I'm happy with my end product, but I struggle. Like I'm not fast. I'm not like, I don't know. My brain doesn't work like that, but slowly it works like that.
So I've always had an imagination. Like I can visualize something that's not there. Like I can visualize something on this table and then draw it so that you guys can see it.
Gotcha.
But as far as like learning a new skill, like learning Photoshop to do that, in a way, Photoshop is kind of like drawing for me. Like realistically, you're just cutting out pictures like with scissors. Essentially, it's like copy and paste, like but layer upon layer upon layer, and then a lot of it is layers where you're kind of erasing parts of the copy and paste. And so for me, it's like kind of drawing. You're drawing out shapes that you want to remove and pasting them where you want them to go.
And then
so Photoshop was just kind of easy for me to figure out.
So with that, so Photoshop that's the tool, but you still had that original, like what's the right word? Like the original talent to picture something.
Yeah, because I've been drawing since I was 5 years old. So like since I was a little kid, I've trained myself to put what I am visualizing on paper so that other people can see it.
And that's like the talent.
Do you
think, are you one of those people who think that can be taught? Like, say I don't know how to draw. Do you think you could teach me to draw in no amount of time, but you could eventually teach me how to draw?
I taught Ernie Macias how to use Photoshop in like 1 hour.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
He had it like on his computer when I was at Mini Truckin', and he's like, show me how to do this. Like, and I was like, oh, you just use this lasso thing right here. And he's like, oh, I can do this now.
That's awesome.
A very similar thing happened to me with Grindr Magazine. I wrote and funded Grindr Magazine. Like I wrote the articles and kind of organized it, but I didn't take the photos. I didn't put it together on the computer. Those people went away.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, and then we brought the magazine back for an issue, and I go, well, I don't even. So I had a computer, I had Photoshop, and I was like, I just opened it up, and I go, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I went to Brandon's at Fuel, and I go, how do you take an image and make and outline it? And he goes, oh, like this. And I went, and then it was just like,
Yeah.
it was on. It's like, did you know that first step? You can kind of.
It has a lot to do with wanting to learn it too.
Oh, that's a good
like
point.
I didn't want to learn a lot of stuff in school, but now I love Googling stuff or looking up stuff on YouTube and learning about it. Like it has a lot to do with wanting to
Yeah.
learn it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Do you still search on YouTube how to do stuff?
yeah, all the time.
Really?
The man just said he wants to build his
I'm
own
gonna
house.
I want to
Well,
build. I
besides
want to
building
build a
the
house.
besides building the house, right? And we talked about that during the pizza party that we had
Yes.
pre-podcast. So
Right.
people don't know that, but
I want to build a house from YouTube videos.
but I'm talking about like art-wise. Is there
Yeah.
still things in the art
there's still
world?
stuff in Photoshop I learn every
Yeah.
day.
That's what the amazing part about Photoshop to me is. It's almost like space.
Yeah.
It is.
And
endless.
there's 20 ways to do everything.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's all how you like people do stuff and I'm like, "Oh, I didn't even know you could do it that way. I've been doing it this way for 20 years."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, I didn't know you could do it that way."
Yeah.
But I honestly think I could teach either one of you to draw or use Photoshop. It's all in a thought process.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think Will mentioned it in a previous podcast. Like I went to school for graphic design and one of my requirements was one video editing credit. And because of that, we made Surface DVD.
Oh, wow.
Because I had to learn how to use Adobe Premiere and I was like, "Oh, we can make videos now."
Mm-hmm.
And it was fun. I didn't even know that I would like doing that.
Premiere's very similar too, because when I started Grindr TV, I had no idea how to edit or anything. In fact, I paid you to do a Forbidden video a long time ago for us. But I was intrigued by the music and putting that music to the video and making it like an emotion type thing. So like when the video changed tempo or when something changed the songs did too, that always really intrigued me. But I didn't know how to do editing, so I called Cody and I was like, "Hey, I want to film something. You show me how to edit it." Like, so I came out here, spent a week with him, and it was the same thing. It was C and V, and then how to turn, like as soon as you know where to put the stuff, put it on the timeline, and how to cut it, you're
That's
off
it.
to the races.
Yeah,
is that
it's-
what
You are
it's
off,
a
'cause
lot like-
everything else is secondary. You could literally make an entire video without any of the tips or without any of the crazy magic tricks or anything, like just by splicing.
It's a lot like arranging like pictures almost. You're like, "Okay, let's put this clip before this clip and after this clip and like let's bleed these together."
Yeah.
Like once you learn how the software works, it's really easy to do video editing.
Once you learn the software part, now it's on you to make the story.
Yeah.
Is that what they call a watershed moment? It's like the moment that like everything kind of, I don't know why they call it that, but it's like refers to the moment kind of everything changes or opens it up. Like, because my moment of that in Photoshop was in the beginning of making t-shirts. I didn't know, I wanted to put an outline around a text and I didn't know how to do that. And it took someone just saying, "Oh, this is how you do it." And then from that moment, it was like,
that was the moment I had with Brandon. I didn't know how to put an outline around a photo. And he goes, "Oh, do this stroke."
And
and then it just like you just take off from there.
Yeah.
There's stuff where like I want to do this in Photoshop, but I don't know how to do it, but I know you can do it, and I'll just go on YouTube and somebody's like, "This is how you do that." I'm like, "Oh, okay," and
So-
then I'll just go and do it that
So
way.
you're gonna take this this same direction or the same thing and apply it to building a house.
essentially.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
I
well,
like
'cause, like-
I like building things. I like fixing things that are broken. I built custom beach cruisers.
Mhm.
Oh, I remember that.
I did. I taught myself how to weld, and I'm like, well, I feel like parts of housing is probably like there's code and stuff like that
Yeah.
you have to get inspections done, all that stuff. But as far as the actual labor stuff, as long as you follow the rules and you measure everything, there's no reason you can't do it. Somebody else is getting paid to do it, and they learned the skill to do it.
Yeah.
There's no reason
And
you
it's-
can't do it.
It's very much like Photoshop.
Mhm.
You're just building layers.
You have to know 8 steps ahead what needs to be done in order not to screw up on step 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I do that when I do Photoshop. I already know what it needs to look like in the end, so I know how to get there.
I think a real important thing that you said is the want to do it, because that the same thing we kind of apply it to like photography or like making videos is you don't, if you're a beginner and you want to do this thing, you don't ask them like, hey, how do I take a good photo? I mean, that's subjective really. But if you said, hey, like you said, how do I make the background all blurry? Like I see these cool photos where this is in focus and this is all blurry. How do you do that? Then it can be on a path to actually learn how to do something.
Yeah.
And that's really hard because I'm sorry. That's really hard because I've met a lot of people who start with that. I want to take a good photo, and it's like, well, like okay, these are the basics on how to do it, and they never have that want, and then they just sort of meander in this like space of like wanting but not wanting.
Yeah, and you can take on one thing at a time, like, oh, I want to learn how to make the background blurry, and then once you figure out how to do it, you can go experiment with that. And then once you've got that like dialed in, you can be like, okay, now let's do this in the photos next and try and experiment with that.
I was a similar learning curve. Was all my friends knew how to do all this stuff already? Like, all you guys were making videos, and I was like, that's pretty cool. And then like a few of my friends were in the magazine industry, and I was like, I want to do this stuff too. So I kind of was like on the trail and learning all of this stuff.
I feel like I'm the same way with you. Because I saw you doing all this cool stuff, and I'm like, I want to do that.
I was like, I'm going to figure it out. Like, I'm just going to figure this out. And that's when I remember calling Cody. I was like, hey, I need you to show me a couple of things. And then it was off to the races.
So who was that for you?
Will introduced me to a lot of stuff that was computer related. As I've been going through the years, honestly, YouTube is like the best friend. Like maybe Cody's not always going to be available to help you, and maybe you don't want to bug him.
Well,
there's times where
that was 14 years ago.
Yeah.
And now Cody's not. He's still around. I still talk to him, but yeah, I'm definitely the same. I'm YouTube.
Like YouTube has helped me with so many things, and you don't have to be like exact, like, oh, show me how to film this going while I'm in a car. Like, it can just be like, show me how to do this filter, or show me how to do this technique, or maybe show me how to make my stuff a little bit nicer in some sort of way, or advertise better.
You just need to unlock that first little step, and then you figure it out. You can't.
That's what I was saying. That moment, that watershed moment, when it's just like all of a sudden you're like, oh, you know.
Yeah. Well.
So
I had a brain fart right there.
It's okay.
I'm like, we're covering this stuff naturally. These notes that I have.
I wanted to go touch back on a couple things.
That's exactly what I want to do too, with the mini trucking magazine.
That's exactly what I was going to ask. So like that's what that was going to be like, where I wanted to go in this next part is like, so you have this skill, you're doing all these amazing things. What you have done a lot of things, like, so what has it afforded you? What doors has it opened for you?
I honestly, I don't know if I would be able to do a lot of the stuff I did if I wasn't in the truck scene. Like, if I was in a different scene, like landscaping or something like that, I don't think I would have the connections that I have. Because we're in the truck scene, people trust us. Like, we trust one another over somebody who's not in the truck scene. So I got reached out to by Mike Alexander, and he wanted me to come help out while their graphic designer was on maternity leave. And he's like, well, we only need you for 3 months. Do you think you could do this? And I've never edited a magazine before. I've never been an art director, but he trusted me to be able to do that. And so I was like, well, it's only 3 months. Let's go try it out. And I ended up being there for 6 months because the lady never came back.
Oh, really?
And
she's like, I had a kid, I'm out.
Yeah, she just never came back. So I was in California living with Mike for 6 months until they found somebody that could stay there permanently.
Because you didn't want to live in California.
It was too expensive at the time.
Oh, it didn't get cheaper.
And all my family and friends were back home.
Yeah.
It was a blast being there for that 6 months. But I wanted to go back home.
That was in Orange County?
I don't remember where it was at. It was near Anaheim, I think. The offices
were
Anaheim.
right behind Angel Stadium.
Yeah. And it was a blast. Like, I learned a lot there. Like, after when I came home, I could officially say I was an art director at a magazine, and that was awesome to be able to do that.
Was it at the same time the Monster Garage thing happened?
Monster Garage happened, I want to say, right before that.
Yeah. That was like that first moment of Monster Garage was that I know people on TV moment.
Yeah.
For so many mini truckers.
And Mike Alexander got me that position too.
Yeah.
He was the connection. He got me a lot of things. But he recommended me to be on the mini truck episode that they did.
Yeah, that was the one where the little people built the mini truck.
And I was like, I'm the only non-little person, but I was kind of little. So I didn't know if it was an insult.
It's funny because, we know Chris Body Drop and all that, but I also knew the greaser dude, the guy from Oklahoma. Yeah, he was a pretty crazy dude, but yeah, that was what was that experience like? Was it a positive experience, or was it like you're like, oh, that was fun, but I don't think because is that your only foray? Was that your only experience in TV?
It had potential to be a good experience. I thought it was awesome that I got to do it. I don't like how it turned out. Being on the show, I didn't get to interact with Jesse James. He was kind of distant.
Mm-hmm. So
it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. He didn't care to be there. It kind of felt awkward, even though I was there for the entire day. I was there for one day, and I did a full rendering in 6 hours, I think, on a computer that was not mine. It was somebody else's computer. And they didn't even use my rendering.
Completely different.
They completely went with some 80s design and basically erased whatever I had done. They showed my picture on there, the rendering that I did.
They showed you actually drawing. I remember that.
And talking, yeah.
So I did a quick sketch on a piece of glass in 10 minutes, and then they doodled it driving away or whatever. But the actual Photoshop work that I did, they didn't show me doing any of the work. They cut out a bunch of the talking that I did in the episode, so it made it look like I said one word in the whole episode. It was kind of it was cool, but also a bummer at the same time.
Yeah,
sounds like the TV industry, though.
Yeah.
Kind of this.
It would probably be different today.
Not with that guy.
I even think that they brought back the show, but I haven't seen any of the new episodes.
I've heard something of that.
I watched them. They were pretty good. They did definitely have that feel from the old school stuff, but I don't think he wanted to keep doing it or something like that.
Yeah, he didn't seem like he wanted to do it even when he was
Well, he
there.
is that attitude of I love all this stuff, but I'm going to act like I care about it zero.
Yeah, that's
when they would do camera break. They're like, okay, we got to break for 10 minutes. We got to move cameras around. He would just pull out his phone, and I'm sitting right next to him. He was not interested in talking to any of us.
Yeah,
it was very awkward.
I've had I did not know him personally, but I have a lot of interactions, and that's how all the interactions went.
I wonder if it's just when you get to a certain point, you're just I don't need to know any more people.
He didn't need to. He's I'm never going to see this person.
It's your brain's full with info. You don't need any more info. It's going to I don't know.
Maybe. Anyway. But yeah, so you worked at Mini Truck Magazine, you worked for Monster Garage. Any other interesting things that you found? Like you said, being in this scene and having this talent, have you ever done something you're I can't believe I ended up what am I doing here? Kind of thing.
There was I did some artwork for the guy from Unique Whips who had that TV show.
No, huh?
I forget what his name was, but I ended up doing a rendering for 50 Cent. But I honestly think it was for Pontiac, and they just used 50 Cent as his name attached to it, because I don't think he ever drove the car.
I don't know if he ever drove a Pontiac.
Oh, Pontiac! Yeah,
I don't
think
he probably never
Pontiacs.
took the keys or anything. They're just probably just show up for a photo shoot and then pretend.
He's
it was
that's
yours.
neat. Okay, and then gets in his Bentley and drives off.
But the guy on that show, he was also a bad experience. He was not wanting to pay me up front for things, and when I would ask him for money, he would be like, well, how about I do this instead? How about you meet some people? I'll fly you out or whatever. I'm like, I'd rather just get a check.
You're right.
Speaking of not getting paid, should we just talk about Slick Chicks?
Oh,
what's
yeah.
That? I have no idea what that is.
Or are we going to get sued?
He's still around, I think.
He's still around. Someone posted. So there's this guy. I forgot his name.
He, I can't. He was a guy pretending to be his assistant the entire time I talked to him, and tried to swindle me into editing an entire DVD for him.
Same
and it's called Slick Chicks?
It was called Slick Chicks. And it was girls wrestling, right? It was this like league or something. But this guy also like owned a shop, screwed a bunch of people out of stuff, owned another shop,
and he was filming like car shows and stuff like that. And he wanted it to be like half truck DVD, half like oil wrestling video or whatever.
and he called. I was on the phone with him one night, and he's like, "Yeah, he just blows you up." Like,
yeah, he would call every day and talk for at least an hour.
Yeah, and then Tracy Grant. They said that
Was
they were going to do like
she oil wrestling?
said that they were going to have a TV show with her and all this stuff, and like
he was
a liar. He was like this. He lived in a fantasy world. I mean, he even had photoshops of like limos with slick chicks on the side at the Super Bowl. He's like, we just rolled up.
Yeah,
Really?
and that's the thing is he was asking me to make some of that stuff. He's like, here's a tour bus. Can you make it look like it's wrapped?
You designed his logo, right?
Yeah, I made his logo for him. I did a bunch of stuff for free because we made a deal where when the DVD came out, I was going to get a portion of every DVD
that's
sale.
Exactly what he said to me.
So I was like, okay, I'll do this labor for free then. And his stuff was old too, so everything was on tapes. I ripped every single one of his tapes to the computer. I spent hours and hours on it.
Wow.
And one day he called me pretending to be he called me as the owner, but it was from his assistant's phone number with the assistant's voice, and I realized he was posing as two people. And stuff started to fall into place, and I was like, this guy's a scam artist.
Wow.
Yeah, and he still is.
Yeah.
There was a post about him not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, and everyone's just like scam, and he threatened to sue me. He would threaten to sue anyone that would like talk slander or whatever.
Yeah,
or like expose him,
he's
basically.
wanting non-disclosure like agreements and all that stuff. NDAs signed, all that stuff.
Pretty amazing story.
It's called Slick Chicks, huh?
Yeah.
It's
Wait a minute.
he changed his name like every year.
I think I know who you're talking about. Was there a music video like around a pool with a bunch of like old like mini trucks and stuff?
No,
that's something else.
Yeah,
I don't know. There was something just recently that
it's sad too because he had the potential to make a full DVD. Like there was enough stuff. I had made the cover for the DVD. I made him a trailer for it. It was close to becoming a thing, and it all just fell apart.
Do you still have all that stuff?
I have all of it.
Huh.
I have everything.
Was it?
I had to buy a hard drive just to store all of his videos.
Yeah.
So it was like Super 8s or something? And
No, it was all mini DV stuff.
Oh, mini DVs. Yeah.
But it was a lot of it was old stuff. Like I was editing stuff in like 2010 for him, and it was like stuff he filmed in like 2002.
Oh, wow.
It was old. It was outdated.
Yeah, that's definitely not a good experience, but
it was a learning experience for me. Like now I know what to look out for.
Yeah, pay me up front.
Like a couple people have screwed me over, and I make everyone pay me up front now.
So that's something. So I deal with a lot of my buddies. They're artists, and they are going through the motions of certain things. You know what I mean? And like, what advice would you give with money and stuff like that? Because like, that get paid up front, half up front. Like, how does that work with you?
Some clients don't want to pay anything up front. Some clients want to do half up front and half later. I'll usually accommodate the half up front, half later if it's expensive. If it's like $1,000 or more, I'll be like, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Like I just won't provide you with high res files until you do the second payment. But I try to do everything full payment up front, and most people trust me because my income relies on me being reliable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, but some people, like, you're the reliable person in this whole in this equation. But have you ever given someone the files and then they ghosted you forever?
There's a couple people that never paid me and disappeared. There's maybe 4 people off the top of my head. There's also people where they pay me up front and they don't like what I gave them. And I feel bad in that situation.
Oh, yeah.
And usually I'll do whatever it takes to change it until they like it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because my name is on it, and I want them to be happy. I want them to be able to recommend me to somebody else.
But like emotion wise, when like say someone that you don't know comes to you and says, I want this rendering, you say, okay, it's X amount of dollars, half up front, half when it's done, and they say, oh well, I don't really want to pay anything. You just say, well, I'm not your guy.
I say, honestly, it's better that I don't take on that job because I can through experience, I can tell that those are usually going to be the clients that give me the problems.
Yeah.
You
But
can always tell.
throughout the whole entire
Yeah.
process.
And you get to you're at that point in your career where you don't care because you know the next one's coming down the line.
And I'll say that's completely understandable. If you don't trust me, that's completely fine. Let me know when you do want to start on it. I just take payment up front, and I'll just move on to the next person.
And you just that person just goes out of your mind.
Yeah, but from experience, any of those people are usually the ones that give me trouble throughout the process. They're like, well, I don't like the way this looks, and this needs to be changed, and then they're just a hassle. Even if they do pay me in the end, it wasn't worth the amount of labor.
I know that,
Yeah.
and you can see them coming, and just a few keywords that they say, in my business, you can just tell like little keywords, I can't think of them off the top of my head, but yes, I do know that. And you're just like, and then I'll just pass them off to you should call my buddy Brandon.
Yeah.
That's the other thing is I'll sometimes I'll recommend them to other people, or if I'm too busy and they need something like tomorrow, I'll be like, well, I have this other artist that can do it.
It's good to have that relationship.
Yeah,
You
and
know what I
that I have a connection with a couple artists that way, and they'll send stuff to me when they're too busy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing with me.
Same with video stuff with me. It's like either it's location or photography or whatever. Like I just got a list today of for a calendar next year, and you know what I mean. Then there's 2 in Florida, and I'm like, it's going to be cheaper for. You can fly me out there, but it's going to be very expensive, or I can contact a photographer in Florida and do it that way. So it's kind of nice to have that relationship with people.
Do you have something that you just don't like to do?
There's a lot of stuff I don't like to do.
Again, I know that feeling too.
Honestly, the weird thing is I find myself in a cycle of getting burned out doing things.
Oh, I see.
There was a period of time where I hated doing T-shirts because I was doing so many of them in a row.
Now, when you say T-shirts, are you talking about like show
like
artwork?
the show designs, because
like turkey drag.
some of these they'll take me an entire week to do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that means I have to devote an entire week next week to do that.
And you're not charging more.
Sometimes I'll charge more depending on how many vehicles are in there.
Yeah, that's pretty normal, right? But like, do you base your charging on the vehicles, or like this artwork has 2
I do
vehicles
it
and a character?
based on the art style, and then based on how many vehicles in that art style. So I break it down 2 times. So the simpler the art, the cheaper it gets. The more complicated, the more expensive. And then if they want more stuff in the art, that makes the art price.
It's because
go
it's
up.
almost another vehicle, essentially.
And obviously your approach changes too, because if it's like a rendering opposed to like T-shirt art, your approach to T-shirt art is a little bit different because you understand the print process for T-shirts.
Yeah, so with renderings, everything can be super detailed, because maybe you want to blow it up and like make a banner of it, or you want to be able to show that there's like screws here, and the screws are different colors here. With shirts, it can't be that detailed because the screens won't pick it up as well. Or a lot of times they might need to print it on a different color shirt, so certain art has to show through a certain way or whatever. So it's a different process doing this than renderings. These take a little more time, so I charge more to do shirts.
But like you were saying, but that's understanding the print process. You know, like the color of the shirt, what order the colors need to go in, and everything like that.
I worked with Will because he works at a screen printer as well, and so we actually did experiments on shirts where I did color swatches and like different halftones of each color over different color shirts to see how colors show through. And so now I have like a reference.
Oh, that's cool.
That's
for
awesome.
stuff.
That's really cool.
Like where like I would notice or like a 10% see-through ink is almost not noticeable between a 25% ink, and I'm like, well, I'll just only work in these parameters and know that that's the only difference.
And that makes really like everybody's job easier. It makes the printer's job easier and your job. Oh yeah.
And we experimented with like overlapping inks. Like, well, here's what this ink looks like on top of white versus not on top of white versus on a white shirt versus on a black shirt. We did all of these different color swatches.
And that's pretty incredible because the amount of like I know what goes into that process. The amount of time it must have took to figure all that stuff out.
Yeah, we spent because we were making our own shirts for the DVD and stuff, and we're like, we always like doing little stuff like that because we want to know all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just spent a day making swatches and testing them out on things.
That's really cool.
The Surface crew was very hands-on.
Oh yeah.
We
down
love
to-
bouncing ideas off each other.
Well, not only that, but like you said, printing your own shirts,
Mhm.
like doing the art. Like a lot of like with Grindr TV, I didn't do the artwork. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and then you even down to I remember you were saying you were the ones that were duplicating your Blu-rays.
we were we were burning our own Blu-rays.
I remember
We
that.
also
I
went to a
remember,
place that
clip.
wouldn't burn our DVDs at all, so we got a tower
That's
and we
what-
were burning our DVDs
I remember
ourselves.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, like an off subject, that's kind of one of the reasons we stopped doing the DVD. Well, for me at least, was we really liked the music that we use, and a lot of it
Mhm.
was copyrighted.
Yeah.
And the farther we got into it, the more scared I got about making DVDs.
I say I never got to that point of that because all the music we used with the Grindr DVDs was also copyright. A lot of it wasn't as mainstream as some of the stuff you guys used. Like you guys did,
like we want to use like 9 Inch Nails.
Yeah,
and
no, you
stuff
guys use like
that.
Rolling
It was-
Stones and stuff. Yeah.
but it's almost like it doesn't matter till you get into stores, and then if something did happen, you just stop making it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because I mean, what are they going to really go after you for?
They,
like,
I mean, if we made enough, they could probably sue us.
I
And
just
it was,
don't
it
know
was
if there's enough
scary.
to be made because like there's like you make a decent amount selling DVDs, but like to 9 Inch Nails, that's like a nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just basically like, hey, knock it off. And you're like, okay.
They would feel like, shut it down. Give me all your DVDs.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, definitely.
I don't know if they'd want compensation for all the stuff we sold. I have
Yeah,
no
I don't know.
idea. But like on our third DVD, I was scared and I was like, we should probably stop from here. And we made another one, and then we made another one, and I was like, okay. Then we got to a point where I wanted to do things on a scale that we couldn't afford to, like we were talking about like getting certain like drone shots, but it was like before drones were a thing. And I was like, maybe we could rent a helicopter. I don't know.
And that's the point that you're trying to make. The Surface crew there was always a vibe, and bear with me in this example, but me and Angie one time we're coming back from a show, and we're like thinking about like, you know, if let's take all the people in the scene and like make them different people in high school, like who would be what, you know? And so we're like, oh, Severed is like the frat guys, you know, or whatever. And then we're going through it, and then we get to the Surface, and we're like, oh, they're 100% the AV club.
gonna
They're
say, like,
the arty, like
the chemists or the scientists.
yeah, like there's always been a vibe behind Surface that has been a very artsy, a very like genuine love for all sorts of art.
Yeah, like we didn't keep any of the money that we made. We just put it back into making more DVDs, and we want it to be like the best it could be. Like the only reason we would make another DVD is if we could do it better.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it came out the same, there wasn't really a point in making it. Like each DVD had a step up in something.
And which I did notice. I remember distinctly watching, going, and forgive me if I get them out of order or the names wrong, but going from one to the next one where you guys did the green Tahoe
Mhm.
and the hot rod, and you guys are mounting GoPros like on the suspension and like in
Yeah.
the motors. I remember that as a
Yeah.
distinct moment, being like, this is different.
Yeah.
I mean, because like Low Life existed and all these other, you know, Domination existed, and they had a vibe and they were great, and we talked to Oliver, you know.
It's a totally different vibe
But-
and which reflects those people that made those.
And that's exactly the point I was trying to
Yeah.
make. And I remember distinctly watching that, going, "This is different. This is
Yeah.
way different."
And then even with these cameras now, like this is something that we didn't have then that we wanted then.
Like compact.
Yeah, just the quality, the compactness, and just that it's better. Like we went from the third DVD to the fourth DVD because HD video came out, and then we went to the fourth DVD to the fifth one because you could start making Blu-rays. And I'm like, well, people got to see this in like
Yeah.
Blu-ray
Yeah,
format.
because even if you're recording in HD and you're not putting it on a Blu-ray,
yeah,
you're watching it on it's.
The
And then-
focus driven was the Blu-ray, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, it was Milestones.
Oh, okay.
Actually, no, we did both of them on Blu-ray.
Oh.
But then again, like there was no real upgrade from there, and then we had family stuff going on, and so like we couldn't really top what we were doing, so we went and started doing our own thing. I feel like this now has the potential to top what we were doing before.
Mm-hmm.
It would be nice if I knew how to use a drone, because there was so much stuff that we wanted to film with the drone.
Drones are super easy to use, and they're very cheap relatively right now. Like
Yeah.
the
Well,
used-
now, yeah.
Well, the like used ones, because they come out so fast, you know. So there's some people that always need the next thing, when actually the next thing does the exact same as the old
Right,
thing.
right.
But I mean, you could go buy a 2 or 3 year old drones for $200. So like, if you want to sacrifice some stuff,
Yeah, and like we always wanted to get like movie style shots, and like I would sacrifice a drone to get one shot.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
if it was gonna be epic.
yeah.
That's awesome.
And
That's
then
such a cool.
forget to hit record.
Like it just like it makes me like almost gives you chills. Like that's such a cool way to approach things.
Like, and I still save music just in case we do want to do something later. But I've got shots in my head, like play by play, exactly how I want it filmed, that I know will cost some money to get done. And I'm sure Will has some ideas in his head too. But I have like epic ideas. Even if it's like an 8-second shot, it would be like the coolest way to open a
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, you guys were also not. I wouldn't say the first, but you guys also were ones to incorporate a lot of B-roll into your videos too.
Yeah, like I was watching Low Life. He would put a bunch of like I don't know, like cut shots or like behind the scenes stuff, but it was just them like drinking and stuff like that. I like showing like what happens like behind the scenes, or like just adding in artsy stuff that's
Yeah, that's
not,
what I was saying. I
that's
remember
doesn't
again.
have a vehicle in it.
I don't know which. Again, sorry, I don't remember video, but I remember like shots of buildings and like that kind of B-roll, like
Yeah.
to really tell the story about like exactly what's going down right now.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Using
Because I know it's just a
using-
normal thing, like everybody does it, but I feel like in the
Well-
truck scene, the truck videos.
Truck videos didn't do it, but it tells a story, because like if you're leaving somewhere and you just show somewhere, like if you left this point and then the next scene is this point, you didn't get this journey.
Mhm.
And even if
Yeah.
it's a 3-second clip of a road, a side shot of like going through buildings, or the road doing this, or like a drone shot, it doesn't matter what it is. It shows the
tedious,
travel
too. Like if
Yeah.
you're just like front bumper, door,
Yeah.
suspension, you might want to see like, oh, here's some cool wind or some leaves blowing, and then they blow past the truck or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I remember like it was Will or Lindsay saying that when you guys did some coverage for the Forbidden Fantasy show in Lake Paris, you guys went out to the beach
Yeah.
and just shot some shots of the ocean just to. I mean, it must have took you a long time to get out there and do it.
But
To
it was-
show
it
3
was-
seconds of, hey, this is in California. There's a beach
It
there.
was to
Yeah.
give you the experience, like as if you were a person attending the show. Like, hey, let's go have a fun weekend. Like,
Mhm.
here's the show, but look at all the fun you get to have if you come out here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just we wanted to incorporate the vibe of everything.
Right.
Yeah, well, it's important for the senses, you know, just because it takes you there, and you're there for a little bit, and then you're back.
Yeah, bring you along for the ride.
Yeah.
Like we went there to have fun, and we wanted to show people that.
Yeah. And I mean, and Low Life did a good job of that, but in a different way.
Yeah,
He took you.
yeah,
He took
Low
you to
Life-
the party.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like,
Yeah.
and I don't know where Oliver took you, but
Well, to talk about Mike specifically, he, I guess in his own, in a way, from my perspective, being kind of like an outsider, he made these guys look like rock stars.
yeah,
He
Yeah.
made these regular old truck guys look like when you watch a video and if you weren't in there, you were like, holy crap, these guys are cool. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So
Yeah.
like that, he filled that space.
Yep.
You know, everybody kind of
it
filled
was
their
more
own
of like
space.
like traveling with Motley Crue. Or
Exactly,
something like
yeah,
that,
yeah.
Instead of like making a movie or something.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It all filled its space.
Like I thank them a lot for like introducing me to this stuff, because honestly, there's probably a lot of people that wouldn't be in the truck scene had they never made their videos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like the only reason we were making them is because we thought we could do it a little bit better. But they introduced us to that stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how I got into it too.
Tough
I
in this
got into
world.
it more of like wanting. I was like, man, these guys are doing fun stuff.
Yeah.
I want to do fun stuff too.
Yeah.
And so
Like, honestly, it's kind of nerdy what we do. We go to car shows and show each other our cars. And like they
like
they
you're
made
talking
it cool.
about in general what we do.
They
Yeah,
made it cool. Like
Yeah.
they made it fun.
yeah.
yeah, definitely. Do you ever you said that you're like kind of collecting music and have ideas for shots? Do you think? And now Will's kind of like dabbling in making videos. Are you guys like kind of loosely gearing up to like?
We've got ideas. The other issue I had too was that we did it so much, and it was getting to a point where it felt repetitive.
I know, dude. I know that.
The best way that I could describe it was I got desensitized. So like I would see something cool, but I've seen it so many times. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't really need to show it to
Yeah.
somebody else because it doesn't have the wow to me anymore.
Yeah, I do that.
That's why when we see new ways to show people, that gets me interested.
I see.
I'm like, well, they've never seen it this way.
Yeah.
Let's like show them this way.
Yeah, it's
I
hard
mean-
because like I'll go to a show and film the show, and it's like 3/4 shot, interior shot, wheel shot. And I'm just like, I'm editing these, and I'm getting mad at myself.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, but people still enjoy watching it.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what I was gonna say.
But
'Cause-
like I'll go to the same show for 3 years in a row.
Mhm.
The same trucks are parked in the same. I've used the footage from 2 years prior for my current show, and no one's ever known.
Yeah.
Like no one's ever caught it. Drone
Yeah.
shots, same drone. I use the same drone shot for Orange Beach all 4 years I edited.
Oh,
3 years.
really?
Same drone shots, and I'm like, no one's ever caught on. But it's like it gets you to this point where like. Yeah, it kind of sucks, and like the creativity kind of leaves, and all that.
We talked about it a little bit. Like I think we could do something if we did something different.
Mhm.
Like after the 50, we were talking about doing a TV show style thing on like YouTube or something, and then or like a TV documentary thing, and then somebody else kind of stole the idea, and then I was like, well, now I don't want to do it because I want to show people something they haven't seen. I mean, it's possible we could do something, but it's probably going to be different than what you're used to.
Yeah.
do you ever feel like that with your art?
Yeah, I feel like I get burnt out on some of
Yeah,
that
you said
stuff
that
too.
earlier. Like if you've done like 50 T-shirts, you're like, okay, we're done with T-shirts.
Yeah, but the guy that's asking you to do the shirts has not done 50 shirts, so it's still exciting to that person.
And there's still being money handed to me and bills that I still need to pay. So I'm like, well, this is better than working here.
That's true.
So
Yeah, that's-
I'll go ahead and do this.
Yeah.
My point I want to add to all that is like, and this is going to come from like a really like self-centered point of view. Like as creatives, because I consider us, all creatives. As creatives, yeah, we get burnout, we feel repetitive. But as like the end user, the consumer, the guy who's consuming the content, he doesn't care.
That's
like
exactly
you
what I
could
was-
show him 50 her, excuse me. You could show them 50 videos of the same thing and they'll love every single one of it.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like that's almost the sacrifice we have to make as the creatives.
That's
We're like,
that's what I was saying about the shows that I'm going to and seeing the same things. People are like, it was a great video, good job, da 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 da, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm doing this for them,
Yeah.
in order to make income for me. And this is what goes back to talking to you about, like getting to different shows, because to spark a little bit of like excitement.
us. Yeah, for
just
us.
a different
Yeah.
location.
Oh, dude.
You're gonna see the same vehicles, the same people, different vehicles and stuff like that. But just being at a different location, even if there's a river flowing right here,
Yeah.
like that changes. Instead of being in a parking lot over here, like it just helps the creativity.
And that's why we would always try to show it the same thing to you in a different way.
Yeah.
We would come up with new techniques or have like a new theme, a new way of presenting it.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely gets tough. But like even with the shirts, like you said, you get burned out, but that person paying you to do the t-shirt,
They're stoked.
they're
Yeah.
stoked.
And then that's why I'll migrate to something. So like if I get burned out on these, I'll start advertising my renderings and be like, well, let's do some renderings for a while, and maybe I'll put a sale on them or
Yeah.
something to encourage people to get renderings more. And the more I post of that, then I get burnt out on that because that's all I'm getting.
Yeah.
I think that's
requests
the curse of the creative is like, and that's what I'm saying. Like that's part of the.
You
the
get
thing.
into it wanting to this thing,
Yeah.
and you do that thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and you go, okay, I still want to do this thing,
Yeah.
but how do I make it now exciting for me again?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's what I went through last year. Like I was editing and I was getting angry, like physically angry, to the point where I would just not work on it and just like watch YouTube or
yeah, like you can, like you have to be in the mood to do most of the art, and like you can get burnout doing videos. Like I honestly don't know how you aren't burnout, but maybe you are.
I am burnout, and I even made a slight change. I made the slight change in my YouTube channel by not. I'm not going to do as much show coverage. I'm going to like do my Tacoma, build these trucks that I'm planning to do. But at the same time, like I stopped using copyright-free music, because the copyright-free music, I'm subscribed to 3 different things, and they're all so boring. Every once in a while, you get a really good one, but the mood that I want, I can't find the mood, and I'll find the mood. And the mood will be good for 30 seconds of that beat or that song, and then it just goes off the rails. And it doesn't match anything that I'm doing. So then I said, screw it. I said, I'm going to cut the YouTube income out of it, because I'm not monetizing those videos, but I'm using whatever music I want.
Yeah.
And I'm able to find that mood that I want to set with the music. And that has helped me like rejuvenate me a little bit into this, like that whole thing.
Yeah.
I found that in Instagram Reels.
Yeah.
Where like I hear a song and I'm like, I'm in this mood and I want to create something in this mood, and then like whatever footage I have, and so from my perspective, Instagram kind of satisfied that for me, because now I can go edit a YouTube video and I don't feel that way, like finding some pretty repetitive beats or whatever. Like I don't know, it's kind of a weird thing that worked out for me like that. But I've found my creative outlet on
TikTok
Instagram.
and even just posting a photo or a screen grab on my story, and then searching for music and like putting that music.
You like get something out.
The feel of the music goes with the feel of the photo,
Yes,
and that even just helps like dopamine my little.
Yeah.
Like,
for sure.
That gets me over a little bridge. Now so.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's some video I can't edit if I'm not feeling it, and that just makes me not work on it. And it's the same way with art. Like if I'm not interested in what it is I'm working on, I kind of put it off. And then if you can work on multiple projects at once, it helps to go and work on the thing that you do want to work on.
Yeah, I found this thing where if I'm on my computer at home, and then I start to just scroll on Instagram, or I'm not working on the project, like for a certain amount of time, I will just close it up and I'll leave, because I'm not, and I'll go do something else productive, because I'm not doing anything productive at that point in time. I'm just wasting time. I'm literally like,
it does help to just take a break and walk away, because you're not going to get anything done sitting there being frustrated. And honestly, you need to look at stuff with fresh eyes a lot of time. You can be staring at something all day and not see what's wrong with it, and then leave for an hour and come back and be like, oh, I just need to change this.
yeah.
What are some things you like to do to kind of like, because like you, like us, have turned your hobby, your passions into what you do to make money, but like, so what do you do to get away from that?
Somebody asked me that recently, and I was like, I make more art.
So you just make more art, but art that you really want to make.
Yeah, like I make art that I'm not getting paid for.
I was just gonna ask. There's 2 questions on here that I have that we can kind of combine into one. Is other types of art besides automotive art, and then hobbies besides art in general.
Yeah. So one of the things I was doing was working on those coloring books, which are selling like crazy. Like, so when I didn't want to work on something, I would just draw a car, or I'd have some of these saved up, like just the ink outlines. But I would just draw a couple. They're not for anyone. I'm not going to make any money off of them, but I compiled enough of them together that I go and print a coloring book and sell them at car shows. I've got a coloring book now that I need to advertise because I haven't shown anyone, but it's got like animals in it and stuff like that.
Oh, neat.
It's got like kittens and puppies in there. I'm like,
that's
people
cool.
will buy this stuff up.
Yeah. Well, it's also to the age that we're at is all the truck guys that you grew up
They
with
all
have
have
all the
kids.
kids. So they're like, I want Surface Nicks. Art.
Yeah, it's cool
Yeah.
drawings of puppies. Like, you got to get a whole coloring book of it.
That's awesome.
Another thing that I am getting into as well is I drew a complete line of wheels, and I'm partnering up with these 2 guys who are starting a billet wheel company.
Oh, this is the big
This is a big
This
reveal.
is the big reveal.
announcement.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
the
yeah.
big reveal. So
Big
we're at
announcement.
we're going real
I'm like-
subtly into this,
yeah,
but
yeah,
no,
this is like, no, this is dun 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 dun. I
And
don't know
it's-
if I have any music here to.
I can't say too much about it because like it's not like there's we're still working on a name for this company. I don't even think there's a website for it yet, but I'm basically coming out with my own line of billet wheels, and I'm also going to be able to sell the wheels myself.
No, Frank will never buy them because he hates billet wheels.
I'm going to specifically buy a set now.
But if you're watching this and you are interested, I actually have photos of real wheels that you can look at.
Yeah.
Like, you can't touch them yet.
Are we allowed to put them overlay them in this?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
Oh,
I'll
Maybe.
ask about it.
I will stop
But
talking about it. Right
I'm
now.
I'm
Let's get-
I'm partnering with these guys who are already making the wheels. They already have
Oh,
copies
they already have
of the wheels.
Oh, okay.
They do exist. And I'm partnering with them so I can also sell the wheels myself.
cool.
Are you going to? So you're going to design the wheels, and you'll be able to sell the wheels through your website,
I think I'll be able to
or
sell
like a
them.
link through like.
We might either have a group website where we can all sell on the website, or I might be able to sell them on my own website as well.
Now, when
You can contact me right now and take orders and look at wheels if you want.
So when it comes to billet wheels, the biggest issue that I always see in that industry is they all just tend to look the same.
Yeah,
So what's your approach to designing a billet wheel?
I'm gonna make them look different than other people's.
You're also there's restrictions, constraints.
There are, yes.
Right, for safety, for material, and all that stuff, right? So like, what's that process for you?
So that's where these guys are helping me out with. They are already through all that process. They're doing all the 3D work. They're doing all the machining and the measuring and all that stuff. I'm helping with the design. I'm going to help with advertisement and all that stuff.
Do you also see that in the billet wheel industry where they're kind of just start to look very similar to each other?
Yeah.
That's my problem with billet wheels.
Yeah.
And honestly, some of the designs that I have cut right now are stuff that I designed like 10 years ago,
Yeah.
and they're still cool right now.
Well, I think with billet wheels, I think they all look for the most part they're all rad. They all look very cool, but there's very limited choice.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go to a show, if there's 20 wheels out, you're going to see 500 trucks that are most likely going to have a lot of
Yeah.
those same wheels on it. So I think that's the other problem, because if you see a wheel it looks good and it's on 100 trucks, you're just like kind of.
And that's what I'm excited about, is these are new and people haven't seen them, and when like maybe right now you'll be like one of zero, like no one else has them. Eventually maybe there'll be one on every 100 trucks or whatever. But it's something that I've always wanted to do, but I never had the money to get something like that rolling.
Yeah.
Like you have to invest a
No
lot of
pun
money,
intended.
a lot of time. Yeah,
get
no
the-
pun intended. I'm hoping that by Dino's and SEMA, I will have physical wheels in my possession, like sample wheels that you
Wow.
can look at and touch.
Are you? Is there a name for this company yet?
Kind of.
But you don't. So
It's not set in stone
okay.
yet. We're getting center caps.
So it's going to
cut
be
pretty
name
soon.
of company, Nick Crouch signature wheel.
It's a partner thing, so
Oh.
it has a group name at the moment.
Okay.
But there is an option for later on to like.
That's the other reason I'm investing my time into this as well, is I will have the option to make any wheel I want later. I have to invest in getting it machined and 3D work and all that stuff, but I can make essentially any wheel I want.
So can
later
I,
on.
if I'm building a truck for SEMA, and I go, I want one-off wheels.
If you've got the money,
If you
I'll
got
make
the
it
money,
happen
you'll design the wheel
Mhm.
from start to finish,
and
with-
hand it to you.
with both, like we can both come together and be like, hey,
Mhm.
this is what I want, and you can go, okay, I can do this. Let's do that, and then final, and then to a physical wheel.
Mhm.
That's
Wow.
cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really cool.
I'm really excited about it. It's something that I've always.
And then
wanted
I
to
could
do.
pay you enough money where you will never make that wheel again.
I can, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot of money.
I was gonna say, I wonder what the steps are like. You could be
Yeah.
like, okay, it's $10,000 to design this and cut these wheels.
And
It's
then
$10,000.
this much to make me not do it
Yeah,
again.
if you don't want me to do it again.
That's an extra $10,000.
No, I can probably sell 7 sets of these. So
Oh.
you have to pay
So
me
it's
whatever
like
70
$70,000.
Yeah.
There are a couple people that I would like to get in contact with about doing one-off wheels where only they can put them on the vehicles that they build.
Brian Good.
You have people in mind?
Yeah, I've got a
Brian,
couple
yeah.
people in mind.
I don't have
In the
money.
scene or farther?
Yeah, I want to talk to Dan Hogan. He's building a bunch of K5s.
Yeah.
I haven't talked to him about this yet, but I want to be like, hey, you need a K5 billet wheel.
Dan listens to this.
Yeah.
So Dan, that would be rad. That would
I
be
think it
cool.
would be cool. Maybe I can talk Jeremy into doing something
Yeah,
like this.
Jeremy would definitely do something like
That
that.
Tray 5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be cool.
It'd beat you up on price.
But
a little bit.
I would like, and it wouldn't be as expensive if he's getting it on periodic builds. Like,
Yeah.
like I'm going to be ordering these wheels from you regularly
Well,
or something like that.
There's people in the industry that, like Jeremy has his own YouTube channel,
Mhm.
so Jeremy would essentially do promos for you that you're not paying for, and then same with Dan Hogan. He's got a good social media. He's got a great following. So like, cutting deals for certain people, like working with certain people,
Mhm.
pays for itself in their advertising.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's pretty
That's
cool.
exciting, man. That's really
Yeah.
cool. That's
You're-
really cool.
And that started off as me explaining, like, here's something that I worked on the side that pays nothing right now.
Mhm.
Like, I have to invest time in putting this stuff together to make it happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, we know how
In-
that goes. That's how this sort of like this podcast. Like this doesn't really directly produce anything, but we do it because it kind of fits into a grander scheme of things.
Yeah.
And the DVDs were like a huge investment. Like, you have to spend an entire year filming. You have to spend X amount of money to
That-
make all the DVDs and hope you sell enough.
They used to give me shit, these guys, because I would overly promise. I would overly say, working on the DVD. And I even go in my Facebook memories and I'll be like, heading to Phoenix, working on a DVD. And I remember overly saying that. And then, like, we would think we were going to get done. And then we would add something more.
Oh, and
Yeah.
just
Like,
like prolonging it.
Yeah, like the last thing was when I went to New Zealand to do all that stuff. Like, we were ready to do it. And I was like, no, I want to get this engineered to slide thing in here. Like, I think it would be cool. And
Mhm.
so I remember people going like, I even think you commented one time, you're like, are you ever going to finish this thing?
If I remember right, wasn't it one of them delayed by like a whole year or something? I could be remembering that wrong.
It was self-delayed
Mhm.
because at first you think, oh, it's going to take 6 months, 3 months. And you're like, oh no, this is going to take
I know
a
how
long
it is.
time. And we were very particular on certain things we wanted to, and it took a long time.
We we like doing little details. Like, we hid stuff in the menus in our DVDs. Like, if you move the pointer around to certain spots, there's stuff you can click on in
Oh,
there.
that's cool.
Oh, that's
Like,
rad.
if you move it around, a little Surface logo will appear, and you can click on it and watch stuff on
Oh,
it.
really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Mike did that on one Low Life DVD. There's
I
one.
love Easter eggs like that.
Yeah, same here. Like, there was one where you'd hit the cursor up, and then it would disappear. And when it disappeared, you'd hit OK, and it would take you to a secret menu. And it was me filming on an airplane when we went to Blood Drag one time, and then there was like 3 secret things on there.
Interesting.
Cool.
That's the stuff that you don't get nowadays with YouTube and things like that. Even
Yeah.
movies, like when you go watch a movie on a disc, you don't get the extras. You don't get the behind the scenes. You don't.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, you could probably find some of that stuff on YouTube, but when you put a physical disc or tape or whatever, not tape, but disc in a
Yeah.
DVD player, you don't get like director's cuts and
Mhm.
And like, it was always footage like that we already had, so we didn't have to go through the extra effort. But it was nice. It was me adding one more click on the menu, and I was like, well, if one person discovers this just because they're like
Messing
goofing
around.
off
so
or
you
whatever,
never told anyone
if
about
just
it.
one person discovers this, they'll be like,
Was that on every DVD or was that?
I think we did it on 3 of them.
so if
Oh,
you have
cool.
Surface DVD, there's
Yeah,
a bunch of people right now going to go
definitely
and like
go do that.
put it on there.
One of them has the drag crash on it.
Oh, that's right.
That's pretty. That's
we
an infamous thing.
we weren't posting that on the internet because we didn't want to give mini truckers a bad rap,
Uh huh.
but we hid it on the DVD.
I have some news for you.
Yeah.
Mini truckers were really good at giving themselves a bad rap.
Yeah. So that's hidden on one. I honestly forget what's hidden on the other ones.
That's the coolest thing.
There'll be a little icon that will show up when you're on it though.
So the cursor won't necessarily disappear. It'll
something will appear on the menu.
Yeah. So that wasn't there a second.
You just scroll around, you'll find it.
That's cool.
I'll have to look through them now.
Yeah. So we got through this.
Well, now we have a bunch of viewer questions.
Well, I still have a bunch of these that I didn't
some
even
Brian
go through.
questions.
I'll blast through them.
I want to know about the SEMA experience.
I love it.
The
Art walk?
The art walk.
Yeah.
So that to me, when you first announced that you were going, it was the first year they did it, right? Or was it?
No, I went to the third one. I think the
first
one
was Max Grundy. Like it was
there was a welder guy. It was upstairs, I think.
Yeah, the guy from Detroit
in the
I forgot
hallway.
his name. But so your first one, I remember when you said you were going, and I was like, this is like the biggest deal.
It was. The first year I saw it, I was like, wait, they're doing this? I was like, how do I get in here?
Yeah, so what was that process?
I asked Max Grundy, and he's like, well, you have to ask this lady.
Because it's a special thing. Because you
have to get invited.
Is that the one where it was over the
it was over the hallway.
Like the connecting
bridge.
thing.
Yeah, but like, because you were not, there's rules about selling things at SEMA, and they allowed you guys to sell your art.
So we're allowed to sell artwork, and we don't have to pay for a booth.
Yeah.
Well, I probably shouldn't say too many details, but we have to give them a portion of what we sell.
Yeah. Similar to probably food and stuff there. So
yeah, but I had to get into contact with the lady who is in charge of all that, and then each year I get invited back, and if I can't come, they fill my spot with somebody else.
So you have to go.
Essentially, I have to go.
Are you gonna do that forever?
As long as I can.
As long as you can.
Because it's the coolest thing.
It's very special.
Ever. It's very special.
Because you're amongst.
That first year was 17, right?
I don't remember.
I think it was like 17 or 18.
Last year, though, I got to be right next to Chip Foose.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. You're amongst giants almost.
Yeah.
This mini truck dude that just did renderings is now like in this. That's what it almost makes you feel like it's not you going, but it's your friend going, and your friend, you see your friend succeeding.
Yeah. And
it's like this. You feel a part of it.
Yeah. Well, it's like representing you, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a crazy experience getting to go every year. It's like the thing I look forward to the most, and when I'm there, I feel like special. Like I feel like I've like achieved something by being there.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm always really humble about all that stuff. But it's
cool.
It's very awesome.
Yeah, that is super cool.
Yeah, because it's not a thing that you, again, like you said, it's not a thing where you're paying for a vendor space, so anyone can go.
I do invest a lot of money getting prints made.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't just call SEMA and be like, "Hey, I have $5,000. Let me have a space." Like it's like,
and I'm very like cautious about the stuff that I do too. Like I really want to display my own car in my booth, showing that like I can do rendering to reality thing. And they're like, well, we're not sure if we can do that. I'm like, oh, that's okay. That's okay. I don't need it.
You're like, well, pulling back.
I don't want to lose my spot. Like, if
you're like, that's you got
cool.
you got full forward, like pull it back.
But I remember one time someone did have a car with
their
booth.
So
is that
when
black?
it was in the small space, the main artist gets the big spot.
Oh, okay.
And they're allowed one vehicle in their booth.
Like Grundy had his in there one time.
Yeah.
Oh, Grundy did. Yeah, and I remember like a black Mercury.
Yeah, and
like
then
that.
ever since then, since COVID, the show's been less dense, so they gave us bigger spots. I think she said this year we might be going back to a little bit smaller, and I'm okay with that because I got invited there, and
that's cool.
Whatever.
Speaking of your own vehicle, what do you have right now?
I've got 2018 Accord. It's bagged on some nice 20s that I got. I gave my truck away.
That was that's one of the questions.
Yeah.
Someone,
I didn't know how sore that subject was or not.
Yeah.
I gave it to a really good friend of mine.
Oh, okay.
And it's getting done.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's getting done.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
You know exactly who it is. Yeah.
Duh.
It was when I saw you selling it. I want to be honest.
I started parting it out.
I saw you sell it and the price on it, and I go, this is going to be a tough sell.
It was. It was depressing to see it in the garage not getting worked at.
Did you already say what it was?
It was a Mazda.
It still is.
It was a Mazda
what it is.
Tribute, but it's essentially a Ford Escape.
Yeah.
And it was going to be the only body dropped one in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I got it far enough to a point where I realized like I can't do this in a single parking space in a garage on my own. I was needing to turn it into rear wheel drive from front wheel drive. So it was going to need an engine swap. And I would need a lift because I would essentially have to build a frame for it because it's a unibody.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I can't do this. And so I started parting it out just to break even, whatever.
And that is even tough because it's not a Toyota, it's not a Nissan, it's not this car where parts are like
no one needs the parts for
and the
it.
parts you could part out were parts that anyone can go find fairly easy. So
I parted out some of it, and then I gave the body to my friend.
Mm-hmm.
And he's putting I think it's a Toyota motor in it. Mm-hmm. He's making it rear wheel drive. He's gonna have it a rolling chassis like that you can look at. Almost it'll look complete. Probably I think by the end of the year.
Nice.
At a show. I forget what
probably.
show.
Yeah.
Now, does that bum you out, or are you excited for it?
No, because he's such a good friend that
when
it's
dude.
done, he's gonna let me drive it probably.
Yeah.
There are those. I know a guy right now that's selling his truck for a good price, like a really good price, and the guy was like, "You could just drive this whenever you want." He's like, "You could take it to shows." I'm all, "That's like, you're just getting the money, and you could essentially someone's storing the truck for you."
Right.
Essentially, I just gave him the truck.
Yeah.
I'm like, here's the title. Like, you don't have to give me any money for it, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if he ever decides, like, oh, I don't want this thing anymore, he knows he can give it back to me, but it'll be done by then.
Do you think he'll just give it right back to you?
I mean, if he's got a couple vehicles, maybe he might get bored with it and want to start something else. You never know.
The coolest part I remember about that truck when you were like in the midst of building it was the headlights. You disassembling the headlights.
I always wanted to make like one-off headlights for it. I sold those to somebody on eBay.
Oh, those. Oh, you didn't.
So those are not. He's doing his own like stock headlights. I think.
Okay. Yeah, I remember those. Those were really interesting and like.
Yeah.
Do you think you ran out of? You said you ran out of space.
I was also doing it on a budget.
So was it a thing of just ran out of space, money, time, motivation because of those other things? Like if you had unlimited funds and unlimited space, would you?
If I had money and if I had a lift, I think I would have finished.
You personally would have finished it.
And I was trying to do all of it my own, like on my own.
Yeah, that's not easy to do.
And I was trying to,
especially like the amount, like what you were trying to achieve. Like
I was trying to keep the engine stock, front wheel drive, and I was trying to leave as much stuff stock as possible on it. And I was trying to do it for like $4,000 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it wasn't realistic.
Yeah. Those things seem like they seem like you could get to the end, but it is very difficult.
Yeah, like I could have done it, but I needed the situation to be different in order to do it. And now I'm happy that I got this car because this car is laid out.
The car's tight.
Yeah,
that's cool.
It's fun. It's a daily driver. Mm-hmm. I paid cash for it. So it was paid off, so I don't even have to worry about anything on it. And I love it.
Running cars are very fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Running.
It was depressing seeing the truck in the garage not running, and I wasn't getting to enjoy it. And I was like, I want something I can enjoy now.
We talk about that a lot. Of just about not that people aren't capable to do things, but circumstances limit your capabilities. Mm-hmm. And whether those circumstances are time, money, space, or your capability to do things correctly and safely, before you cut your vehicle up, it's really good to like make sure that this can actually happen.
We always talk about that.
I'm in the situation with my Tacoma. Your friend warned you?
Yeah, I paid my friend to cut it up. He's like, you realize once I do this, it's destroyed. And I was like, do it.
Do it.
Yeah, I'm in the situation I am with my Tacoma now because of that exact reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And luckily a few years later I was able to get it to a point, but
it's pretty amazing.
It's difficult to tell yourself, because you think I can do that, like it's fine. But like coming to a realization of certain things, because for the only simple reason of you're enjoying that car now, and how many years went by where you didn't enjoy it,
and that's how I looked at it. I was like, I started this because it was going to be fun, and like I could finish this, but maybe I need another 8 more years, and I'm like, well, that doesn't sound fun. I was like, I'd rather spend 8 more years in a fun car that is done, and then maybe build something like this later.
So how are you taking? So the car, you can only do so much with the car, right? Especially if it is your daily driver. Like you don't have any other vehicle. That's it.
Yeah. Right now, I don't have any other vehicle. I think once I get a house and a
Settled
decent
and
garage, I'm probably gonna get more vehicles.
Are you doing anything more to the Accord? Like, are you taking those headlights apart?
No, the reason I bought that car was because I liked how it looked as
Accords
is.
are just
And
slick.
it's my favorite generation so far of that car. Even the new one, I don't really like that much.
No,
You said 18?
It's 2018.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it was like
So
18 to 23 was that generation.
that was the one that Chelsea had before her current one, right?
She had a 16. So she
That was the one right before.
She had the refreshed gen before that, and with that generation, what's funny is because the 16 to 17s looked way better than like the 13s and 14s. Just that refresh made those cars look great, because that same car the years before didn't look great. Hers did, yours did, but the new ones don't. It's like they go through these through these things. Like Civics were the same way. Like the Civics with the explanation taillights, I don't like those.
Yeah.
The new Civics, like Chelsea's new one, it looks super tight.
Yeah.
But I like how it is right now. I might wrap it a different color.
I was gonna say you're capable of doing that, right?
I also haven't adjusted the coilovers all the way, so I think it can go a little bit lower. Right now, it's probably like this far from the ground. I'd like to be able to drag it though. Maybe I might have to cut something. I'm not sure.
So it's bag over coilover.
It's got like the bag strut situation.
So it's a factory coilover, almost like a Heck yeah!
I love that car.
Well, so that knocked out a couple of things. This question is really good, and
so are we going to get to viewer questions?
Yeah,
is that where we're going?
I only had 3 questions for him, and he answered all of them already.
Okay, well, we're got to do the dropping in.
Oh,
you ready?
drop in.
So you're not going to be able to hear this, but there's
drop.
dropping in. We got to do this.
Drop in.
Drop. I dropped everything.
I knew the drops would come.
Drop it.
Okay, it's done.
It takes some getting used to doing that without knowing it. But trust me, it's a really cool
You gotta have like a little boombox where you like play it for us.
I could see it playing.
Yeah. So welcome to Dropping In on the Drop, with Nick. And so yeah, like I said, a couple of these got answered naturally, but this question is really, really good. A couple of people asked it. Should I do I say who asked
Say
it?
the name,
Okay.
yeah.
So skill set Ben Turpek, who we're gonna see tomorrow, asked, and also AZ Draggers asked.
Brad Bosman.
Asked, is Nick afraid of AI, or is Nick afraid AI will take his job? And then Ben asked thoughts on AI and artists in general, good or bad.
I've actually been messing around with the AI stuff.
Oh, that's kidding.
I don't like that it can't do what I want it to do. I know eventually it'll get to that point. And I've actually follow a couple artists on Instagram who just make really cool artwork using AI, like crazy stuff. I'm like, I want to buy a print of that, and I can tell an AI made it. I'm not as worried about it because I can make specific stuff exactly how my customer wants it, and I know I kind of can tell AI won't be able to do that, even at its best, probably. And especially when it comes to print, because a lot of the AI stuff is, I don't honestly know how big they can make it. Like,
I see.
usually a lot of the stuff is like an icon size. So like maybe you could print it this big.
Yeah, because they're sampling from low resolution.
The stuff that I make I can blow up the size of a wall, and you might have to pay a lot of money to get AI that'll be able to make you high.
You would almost have to do AI and then have someone actually redraw it.
So using AI as a
AI's
concept.
been awesome for me because I've been using it. You can use it to get ideas.
Right.
Like you can say, do this with the cool background and this lighting and whatever, and like, oh, I never thought of doing it like that.
Are you
and
doing
then
it in
I
Photoshop?
The
AI beta?
No, I haven't messed around with that, but Will has.
Yeah.
He's been showing me some of that. But it is cool to just get ideas like, okay, I'll use this as a reference when I make this.
Yeah.
And then I can make something cool based on that. The video, on the other hand, if you're editing video, there used to be crappy AI that I thought was awesome to watch.
Oh yeah,
'Cause it
like
was,
the spaghetti
it
when
was
Will
really-
Smith
yeah,
eating the
yeah.
spaghetti.
It was real trippy.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of what my dreams look like a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
But then I've been seeing the new AI video, and I'm like, that's actually kind of like scary good.
Right. Yeah. Some of it is really good.
Because when it comes to video, there's a difference. Like you said, there's limitations with art AI with size,
Yeah.
file size.
But video just mainly goes on the internet.
That's
now.
what I'm saying,
And
because
so
there's
it doesn't
no-
have to be really good.
No, because art is like if you use Adobe Photoshop art, it's sampling from a ton of different things,
Yeah.
and same with the internet, it's just sampling from all these different things, which are normally low res, and so but on video, it's sampling for. It doesn't matter if it's sampling from low res or not because it's projecting to low res.
Yeah, and it before the AI video was doing like, it would show somebody's face and then it would pass frame to frame and their face would look different. But the new AI is like
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
Where it can be consistent from start to finish.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people doing the reimaginings of Bob's Burgers, a 90s sitcom kind of thing.
I love scrolling through all those.
Those are fun.
Yeah.
Those are
pictures,
fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the controversial question is someone who strictly does AI imaging, are they an artist?
Essentially, yes. Because after messing around with the AI stuff, you have to like learn like the prompts and commands to get it to spit out what you want to spit out. Like, not everyone can make this cool artwork with AI without experimenting with it for hours and hours. Like, I was trying to make it spit out a cool hot rod car, and I spent like an hour trying to get the right text to make it look cool, and it still accomplished nothing.
So it's almost like anything else, right?
It's
So-
like coding, essentially.
but it's almost like any other form of art or whatever. So I can take a photo, or anyone can take a photo, but if someone wants a good photo, you have to learn
have to
how to make it
invest- you have to
to
invest
take a
time.
good photo. Same with video, you this or art. So
Essentially, you have to learn how to talk to the AI via type in order to get the image that you want.
Yeah, I've experienced that too, and to mess around with stuff, and the amount of description you have to go into, and like, yeah, it's really interesting.
And other thing that I've seen too, there's different forms of the AI art. Some people, you can start with the image, and then you can add on to the image, and then add on the image, and each time you can do alterations. Like, you have to be able to visualize what it is you want it to look like in order to convince it. So essentially, it's almost like a blind person making art, where you're translating, I want the trees up here, and then somebody can tell you, okay, the trees are up there. It's like it's basically a blind person making art.
That's a really
my
interesting way to
opinion.
look at it. So the other thing is, because like, you know, there are people who hate AI. There are people, you know, who understand what it is. So like any other thing, there's a wide spectrum of people. So I think, because there's also like what this person is saying, are you ever afraid of it taking your job? You say no because I have this certain set of skills to do. Me, as a person who makes videos, like, I look at it like, yeah, if I input a bunch of footage into it, and it'll spit out a video, but someone still needs to create. I need to go out and film that footage, and it's like my idea and all that. I think the people who might be afraid is like an editor.
Yeah.
Like, do you think
Or
so,
somebody who does stock stuff.
yeah, stock footage.
Okay.
Like, I could see it replacing stock imagery, stock footage. Like, if you need a shot of a building pan or something like, they could just make up that
Yeah.
stuff.
So like I edit videos that I don't, you know what I mean, that I don't film. People send me, and I have clients that I just edit videos for. That stuff some of those that I edit for could probably be done with AI. Podcasts can be done with AI. So like a podcast producer that maybe there's like, and that doesn't want to edit, you can already do it. So you have a multicam setup, and you hit a button in Photoshop,
and
it knows that
this person's talking.
camera A, I'm
Yeah.
person A. Camera B, you're person B. And you just enter those prompts, and it will go. I mean, in real time, just cut the lines. Like,
Yeah.
it's insane. So
It
I
could
mean, like,
also replace the voices too. If you want to add
Yeah,
in
yeah.
a fake AI person for the rest of the podcast like season, you could make somebody
Nick
else.
Crusher doesn't exist. This is completely AI generated.
But as much things as it will take away, it will also add. Like, by providing people an ability they didn't have before. A new person can exist. Like I didn't have if so and so didn't have the ability to get this stock footage because I couldn't afford it or whatever. Now I exist because I can access it for free, or I don't have to outsource it to somebody else. Like now a new job can exist. Like somebody can come about that wasn't
What
able to
is
before.
do you see a downside to any of it?
Yeah, like if the video gets any better, I feel like a lot of misinformation stuff
Yeah,
can
that's,
come out.
that's what I'm thinking, like deep fakes and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely a scary part. Hopefully they can figure that out. But
Because you can already Photoshop people doing things that they weren't doing,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
video is just going to be that much harder to.
yeah, and it's
Right.
very close.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it's only in its infancy.
yeah,
Yeah, I know. That's the I don't want to say scary, but that is
It's
the crazy
scary
part.
how much better it gets each year.
Yeah. Well, it's like
I'm already
those,
picturing it 10 years from now.
It's like those Boston Robotics robots, like 10 years
Mm-hmm.
ago. They're like, oh, look at this stupid robot, and now it's like
Backflips and
Yeah,
stuff.
it's like
Have you
like
seen the
a
one
man.
when they push them?
Yeah.
That's old.
It
I know
freaks
it's
you
old,
out.
but it's freaky, man.
It
Like,
See him
freaks
do
you out.
flips off
yeah,
of stuff
yeah.
and
I'm
catch
like,
things
I have to
now.
Google if this is real. I'm like, are they messing with me? Like,
The-
is this real?
The newest one that they did, I thought was fake until I started seeing it spitting out hydraulic fluid because something broke on one of the lines. Like, oh, that's real.
Like, that's real.
That's bleeding.
It's bleeding.
You have Fletcher's question? I forgot what he asked.
It
it was a
yeah,
message.
that's a different. Okay, we can go over there,
Yeah.
and then we'll come back to this one because that's another. Ben asked that one. That's another good one. Yeah, excuse my voice.
I have it on mine, but I just have this video. I didn't want to
Some
disconnect.
No,
Most
it's all
I've
good.
talked,
Okay.
even for SEMA, SEMA, I don't even have to talk this much.
So Mark Fletcher from out here asks. He already kind of answered this, but we'll go through it again. So, what is your main job? Your renderings. Sorry, my eyes are. What is your main job? Your renderings. Did you go through an art school for this? I think that's two. I'm sorry, there's a comma instead of period. Yes. What is your main job? Your renderings. Did you go through an art school for this? Doing cars. Was it your main thing you wanted to do? Was it? What was your? I'm sorry. This is. Like,
I think I know all the stuff he's asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We kind of answered some of it.
We
but if
answered
you wanna
it.
break it down real quick.
What's your favorite rendering? Do you have a
Damn,
car
he's got
trigger?
a lot of questions.
Yeah, that's why I was confused because I thought this was one question, but it's actually like a bunch of
I
different
think
questions.
I can answer a bunch of those pretty quickly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
He's like, yes,
let
yes,
me
no, no.
let me see that real quick.
Yeah, you can read it yourself. It's the middle one right there.
The main thing I like to, my main job this year has been T-shirts, like designing those left and right. Otherwise, majority of it is probably renderings.
School.
Oh yeah, I did not go to school for Photoshop. Will showed me how to use it, and I learned it in like a week, maybe.
He didn't go to art school or anything like that.
No. And then when I did go to school eventually for art, that's where I learned how to use Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator, and Adobe Premiere for video editing. But Photoshop,
And that was the birth of a Surface DVD, essentially.
yeah, and so I had already known Photoshop at that point 10 years already. It was all like self-taught. My favorite rendering,
Yeah. Do you have one that stands out?
I've done so many.
It's like a blur.
What's his name? Mike Partika? Is that his name?
Yeah. Yeah. With the rat rod.
Yeah, that white C10 I did for him
Yeah.
was one of
Did
my
he ever
favorites
finish
for
that?
a while.
Did he do that one?
I think he did. It just stayed all white.
Yeah.
There's probably a couple other ones
Yeah.
I've done.
Zach from No Regrets with the Mazda. That
Which one was
he just
that?
came out.
Oh, actually, speaking of Zach,
He asked a question.
he asked a question, but it's
Yeah.
on my.
Which
what-
Mazda? Was
The one
that
from No Regrets.
The black one?
Yeah.
I love that one. So that rendering has actually been in hiding.
Yes. He asked me.
for-
He goes. He asked me if you wanted to do an updated version of the finished
Yeah,
truck.
because he's got the
Oh, it was on.
headlights now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it was on
Yeah.
YouTube. There's a couple questions on YouTube.
Yeah, there's actually, that's the other thing is I have renderings that are like 10 years old that I haven't posted yet because they're still being built.
Do you have any Riddler ones?
Riddler ones?
Riddler vehicles that people have like wanting to build Riddler vehicles, and then it never happened.
What do you mean Riddler?
So the Riddler Award.
What's that?
That's the Detroit Autorama, like the cars that get built. No one can ever see them. They get there's
I've
8
never
of them.
heard of
You've
this.
never heard of that?
No,
Yeah, it's like Foose won this last one,
never heard of
or
it.
did he win the last one? He's won one, but
I suppose
no,
you never-
Kindig won this last one. So it's basically like 8 of the most badass vehicles. The rules are as they're being built. Like I've filmed at shops, and we have to cover a few cars because some take years and years and years and years and years built. So like, but the rule is you can't like show anything that happening to it.
Almost everything I do I can't show.
Yeah.
Like his Mazda, like I didn't show that for like 8 years or whatever, and now it's done and it's cool and it looks almost exactly like the rendering. But like I don't post a lot of stuff on social media because I'm not sure what I can and can't post because a lot of stuff isn't unveiled yet. It kind of gets discouraging a little bit because I'm like, well, I don't know if I can post this, but I want to show it off.
Can you just reach out and ask?
Are you guys already? I'm sorry.
Yeah, a lot of times I do. I'll update. I'll check back like 5 years later. I'm like, hey, is this good to post? I'm like, no, you can't post it yet. I'm like, really? It's been 5 years.
You're like, get to work, man.
I'm sorry. I was like trying to find this question. Did you guys just answer exactly what he was talking
Yes,
about?
yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. No, it's okay.
I remembered his question.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I wasn't even listening. I was trying. So I know I saw it. Where did I see it? In the end, that's what he was talking about.
Yeah.
If you wanted to revisit his rendering.
And then at the end he goes, I think I could just message him, huh?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, but we'll bring it up.
Yeah, that is really cool.
But like, it's possible. I'd have to scroll through my renderings to see if there's like a couple favorites.
you
And
double-
maybe there's some that I can't even talk about. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you double back up your stuff? 2 hard drives?
I do once every like 2 years, but I have almost everything on 2 hard drives, and I've never lost anything.
Yeah, you only lose it when you don't do that.
Yeah. But even then, I've had hard drives fail on me, and I've still been able to rip everything from them.
yeah,
I just
okay.
can't put anything else on
Yeah.
them. But I've never lost any artwork. Like I have stuff from I have the very first rendering that I've ever done still.
Oh wow.
What was the very first rendering to reality that you saw?
I don't remember.
You know, like I mean, I would imagine that's pretty like to see the.
I have a folder of rendering to reality stuff. I don't remember what the very first one was.
But there has been ones where you're kind of like, whoa, I can't believe that. Like that's a real thing.
Yeah, like it's really cool seeing them like done. It's actually cool seeing them look just like the rendering.
Mm-hmm.
Like it makes me feel good. Like I got it accurate.
Yeah, and the customer who
They
ended
wanted-
up with it, like that's
they didn't want
exactly,
to change like anything
Yeah,
on
that's
it.
really cool.
Yeah. What is there any others? in
Yeah,
there?
we got one more really good one. Ben asks also, social media artist scammers offering to draw people's trucks and the effects on real artists like himself.
I've only seen that a couple times where somebody will post my artwork as a reference, like, "Hey, I can draw your car like this," but it was something I drew, not something they
I've seen
drew.
it on Fiverr that when I go on Fiverr and I'll look through the artists and stuff like that. There was one on there that had a bunch of Daniel's artwork from Fuel, and like I was like,
That's got to be
like-
kind of jarring to see.
That's got to be jarring to hire that person to do that drawing, and then it comes out nothing like those drawings.
or
Yeah.
or don't get anything at all.
Like,
Yeah.
I just feel bad for the customer because then they'll get disappointed when the artwork they get isn't good. But what concerns me more is if my name was on the original and they're thinking that I'm also the one that did the
Right.
new stuff for them.
Right.
And then they're like, well, this person did bad artwork for me, and really I wasn't the one that did it.
Mm-hmm.
Has that never happened? Or
I've seen people use my stuff, and usually somebody else will point it out. They're like, hey, this guy posted your artwork, and then I'll go look
Yeah.
at it and be like, hey, can you remove this? And sometimes they'll take that stuff down.
yeah, that's it's a pretty crazy. Like I always see you want a tune of your truck? Those like TON.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the cartoon things. Yeah.
And you never know if they're legit or they're not legit.
And I'm sure this has happened many times, but also people using your artwork for other things, like a show flyer or something, or
Yeah, there's been times where people used our videos on stuff, and then there's been times where people will just cut like a truck out of
Yeah,
a
just
picture
the
that I
truck,
did and
uh-huh.
like put it on something else. And usually I'll reach out and they'll just like vanish.
And do you think sometimes it happens like kind of like out of ignorance, like they don't?
It could be that they might also be young too. Like
That's what I mean,
When
yeah.
I was younger, I had taken somebody's rendering and rendered it more because the rendering was so good. I thought it was a stock photo of a car. And so
Well,
like
see, that's just
I
like
took
blissful
it
ignorance
and
right there.
so like I remember
You
there
almost
was,
just took it as a reference photo.
yeah, there was one time I took this car and I thought the car was cool. It had like a wide body on it or something like that. I just thought it was from another country. And I'm like, oh, I put different wheels on it and I lowered it. And I was like, what do you guys think? And I posted it in a forum. And they're like, that's so-and-so's rendering. I was like, no, I lowered it. I put the wheels on it. They're like, no, this guy made a 3D model of this car.
wow.
It doesn't exist or whatever.
I was gonna ask about that. Do you follow like Kaiza or anything like that? Like the 3D like
Yeah,
game
I
stuff?
follow him. Yeah.
Yeah.
His stuff's really cool.
It is. It's like those vehicles that you see that they'll get shared. They're like, this truck's sick, and you're like, that's not real.
Mm-hmm.
But-
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
But it is real.
I kind of wish I would have gotten into that 3D like genre, but it was too complicated. It felt like for me to get into, especially with how much I've already invested in Photoshop. I know that's like the future, but I'm too invested in this.
Yeah. What about the renderings that are like that? It seems to me they haven't caught on, but they're almost like they move and they're
Yeah.
3-dimensional, and to me like the Kaiza like I'll show you who that guy is.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
He does a lot of wide body stuff,
A
right?
lot of wide body, a lot of video game esque stuff, a lot of it's not too crazy, but it is crazy. But then there's like the guys that will do a rendering like just what the truck vehicle is going to look like at the end, and they'll put motion to it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah,
And they've got the upper hand on me because they can provide more reassurance for the customer.
Yeah.
And there's chances too that they're being able to do it cheaper than I am,
yeah.
just because they've got stuff pre-made already, and all they have to do is change colors.
They just have to kind of insert
Yeah,
that image into the
exactly.
thing and let it do its.
When a new vehicle comes out, do you feel like a need to like race to be the first one to
Yeah,
render it and
I
lower
always
it?
wanted to see what new stuff looks like lowered. I always did those what if pictures.
Yeah.
So like if a new car came out and the pictures were unveiled like that day, I wanted to post a picture of it lowered like that same day.
And is it really cool when you do that and then all of a sudden you see everybody start sharing it and it starts making
Yeah,
its way
like
around?
I want that to be shared instead of the stock photo.
Uh-huh,
Yeah.
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 Well, I think your what was it? I think your Tundra.
There was the dually Chevy, that new dually Chevy when
Yeah.
that came out. That
Oh,
was
that was-
really
yeah.
popular. I haven't been seeing a lot of new ones, so I haven't done any lately. But I know there's definitely a ton that I've missed out on.
That's cool.
But I've done a lot of those too, and it's super easy to do that. Like I can do it in like 30 minutes and post it somewhere. And
Yeah, because the photos are so crisp and so
yeah,
They're almost.
I love
they're-
doing renderings of new
They're,
cars.
yeah, because they almost look digital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
And
you-
they're so new anyway to see it doesn't mess with your brain so much to see it like laid out. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's already this new thing entering
Yeah.
your brain.
Well, and the lighting's perfect. It's not like a
Yeah.
car at a truck show where there's shadows and it
Oh,
looks
that's
weird.
true.
and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I think that wraps that up. This person asked, Lowrider Gareth, did you do the rendering for First Blood? The Bobby Martin's first or second
yeah,
gen Tacoma?
yeah. That when that Tacoma first came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did his rendering.
Because this guy, he actually found that truck in the UK, so he's
It's in the UK.
yeah, it ended up in England
Yeah.
in some field,
Crazy.
Yeah.
and this dude found it.
That was something orchestrated by Mike Alexander as well. He connected me and Bobby together to
Yeah.
get that rendering done.
Chris Rhodes asked a couple questions, but I think we kind of went over them.
Yeah, I was just gonna. That's the last one in here. Chris Rhodes asked, "Who were your influences or inspirations when you were first starting out?"
I was going to ask that too. Kind of first starting out, was there anyone you remember, or now? Is there anyone that you look to, a peer or like in a different field?
I actually missed a question from earlier, and that will apply to this question.
Mm-hmm.
I missed a question of like what did I do before cars, or what
Oh.
would I have gotten into if it wasn't for cars?
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that was my first influence. I actually started out doing comic books,
Oh, okay.
and I was like drawing. I wanted to be a comic book artist. I wanted to come out with my own comic book, and there was an artist named Michael Turner. He did like everyone did cool covers, but then everyone did like really
Yeah.
shitty insides.
Oh,
And it was
huh.
a different artist for the inside versus cover.
Right.
This guy did the insides the way that he drew the covers. He did the entire book, super detailed. He was probably my number one like go-to artist for the longest time.
It wasn't Rob Liefeld. Just kidding.
No.
Who's that?
That's a comic nerd joke.
Once I got into cars, it was Chip Foose probably, because he was doing renderings, and it was on TV, and I was like, okay, this guy.
He
like,
legitimized the.
this guy is famous,
legitimized?
and he does what I.
Yeah, he legitimized the renderings.
Yeah,
Yeah, and he's just a super cool guy.
yeah.
Did you have a good experience with him at SEMA?
I finally got to talk to him for the first time last year.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That was at SEMA, right?
Mhm.
When you were next to him, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, he was. I had worked down there at his shop for like a few days in a row one time, and went to his house and filmed him do a rendering and stuff. And to me, he felt like he was.
Yeah.
But I was there as a job, so I don't know if it was any different. But like, I was just curious how like an artist to artist how he was.
Yeah, like he's. I felt like at one point he was the number one person in that genre of doing renderings. Like he was the person, and now I feel like eventually I will like replace him.
That's awesome.
Now that goes kind of my question is, your goals and your end result of where you want to be settled down into this whole thing. Is that where you want to be the guy that people like, the first person that when you think of a rendering, you think of Nick Crouch?
Like he could get away with doing one rendering a year if he wanted to now, just how he has his fingers into everything, and he makes his money elsewhere. It's not the renderings that he makes his money on. Eventually I'd like to get into that position where I'm just doing art for fun. I have other passive income. I don't see myself ever stopping doing the art. I just see myself not making it my income.
What do you see your passive income being?
I would like it to be selling wheels. So like I just take order over the phone and design wheels in my spare time, or I would like to build a paid off house and not have any bills, and then I don't even need to do any work.
You can kind of just wake up.
And then make something cool if I want, or not make something cool if I don't.
I'll tell you
want
what, I don't do that now, but I kind of do that now in my own way. And but not in my own way because my bills aren't paid off. But it is a very freeing. It's very freeing.
Yeah, I know.
And
That-
like,
not to delve too much into my situation, but that's me.
yeah,
That's me.
Yeah.
That's my life.
you get. I've been having like cabin fever the last month and a half or whatever because around this time of year my thing gets a little slow because people don't want to go and do photo shoots and video shoots. But I made enough to like float myself for a while, and then I've the internet sales and all that stuff, and it is nice just kind of like getting up and doing what you want. But then there's that part where I know things are going to restart for me. It's not where you would be like just whatever, like do what you want for forever. Me, I know I'm going to go back into my routine from before. So it would be nice to not go back into that routine before and just dictate my own routine.
Right.
That would be the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
To go back on the other thing, have you ever had an experience where you met someone and they are not exactly what you thought they were? I'm sure it has to. Like, this is
Like artist wise.
artists, yeah. You're like, oh man, I really like your stuff, and then they're like, and then you're like, okay.
No, most of the time it's been cooler, like, because once you do meet a person, you get to dive a little deeper into what they do, and then realize, oh, it's even more than I thought. Like whenever I would go to SEMA and look at the other artists there, I was like, oh wow, they're in deep as I am, if not deeper, like into what they're doing, and they're like really committed to what they're doing too. And it just makes me want to work harder.
That's cool. That's really cool right there. That's really cool.
Yeah, you're seeing your peers and all that stuff.
It's just cool to be able to see them also just do what they want to do and pay the bills. Like ultimately I think that's what everyone wants to be able to do.
Yeah, there's like the struggling artist thing, like that's a real Like that's a real saying.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And you're more struggling if you're not good at it either.
Lucky you're good at it.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Anything else? We're at the 2 hour mark.
Oh, okay.
So
Sweet.
yeah. Is there anything that you still want to talk about? Anything that you don't think we covered, or anything that Nick Crouch wants to say to the world?
What do you want to say to the world?
AKA
Wheels.
AKA
Wheels.
Few people-
Contact me for wheels if you would like to get some wheels made, or if you want to look at some wheels, or if you want to buy some prints. I have everything on my web store. You can get it in almost any size, any format, or I can make you something of your own and print it out.
Don't be afraid to ask.
What is
Yeah.
the name of your web store?
The web store is surfacenick.com. You can find me on Instagram at surfacenick, on Facebook at surfacenick.
And all of that'll be linked down below. All of the socials
sweet.
and website and everything.
Yeah. We'll
Yeah.
definitely remember to do that.
That's cool. Well, thanks, man. Thanks for chopping it up. Like I said, I've never really talked to you before, so this is cool to chop it
The
up.
first time I met Nick, I thought he hated me.
Same.
I'm very quiet. I like to people watch.
Yeah. It was at one of the river runs. I remember.
Forbidden Fantasy 2012-ish.
That was yours.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
hey, what's up, man? And you're like, I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah, this was.
Also, I'm terrible at remembering names.
Same.
I'm like dyslexic, so if you ever come up to me and I can't remember your name, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember sitting there. We were sitting by the dance floor. It was like Spring Splash. It was at Parker. So it was one of the river runs that was not around for a long time, then kind of came back. And I remember I was sitting at these benches, and the dance floor was right there. I was in like this little hall, and I was just like, oh yeah, I just thought you hated me. And you're like, cool.
And I also remember people by their vehicle. So if
Yeah.
you're like, hey, do you remember me? Just show me a picture of your vehicle and be like, oh, I remember you.
That's cool. Well, it was really cool, man. Really cool to sit down and talk with you. It's really cool to talk to someone so like passionate about everything, about art, about vehicles, about everything. So thank you. Thanks for sitting with us.
Thank you.
And willing to help people if they call him and want a rendering done.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also down if you're like also a struggling artist and you just want some tips. I'm always down to help give
That's
people
awesome,
a couple
too.
tips with that stuff too.
Yeah. I know a guy that has asked me for a lot of advice, and I'm not an artist. He is, and he is going through some motions, so that would be
Yeah, I had
That's cool.
an artist come to me at my first SEMA, and he asked me a bunch of questions, and he was just venturing into becoming freelance. I gave him a bunch of advice for a couple of minutes, and he came back the next year. He's like, I'm self-employed now.
That's awesome. Dude,
And
that's
he's
really
like,
cool.
I did it all thanks to you. And I was like, that's cool. And I just had to chat with him for a few minutes. So
Sometimes
I'll
it-
do
yeah.
that with people.
Yeah.
That's
Sometimes
all it
it just takes the right. I sold a shotgun mic the other day to some kid, and he came up to me met me at Rev B. I was doing a photo shoot over there, and he came, met me, and he goes, "So this is what you do for a living?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Can I?" And he asked me like 4 or 5 questions, and he goes, "I never thought about it like that."
Yeah.
And then he kind of left. So it's like it feels good when you get into a place that you can
Mm-hmm.
like give those tidbits of advice and then let them run with it. You know.
The best advice I can give another artist too. I used to be really cheap on myself and make my value really small because I was comparing myself to an everyday worker. And the best advice I can give you is make your value more, because everyone can flip a burger, but not everyone can draw you a picture. And so we're harder to find, we're rarer people, so you should value your work more in that way.
That's
and
really
don't
cool.
cheapen yourself.
Exactly. Like your time is worth more because you are harder to find.
Yes.
That's. I appreciate that info. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Like there's a reason the AC guys get paid a lot of money. They have to climb in your attic in the middle of summer.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
everyone does that.
Right.
No, it's something that I've learned a little bit more over the last like few years, to the point where that first invoice you give someone that's pretty expensive that you kind of question yourself on, and then they just pay you and you
Yeah,
go,
exactly.
Oh.
unlock that one.
Yeah.
Like you just helped them, like, because it took them a lot of time to find you with your skills.
Yeah, and the skill and the thing you're providing them, like a show artwork, they're gonna make money on that show artwork. If I go and make a video for a company, that video is forever and they're going to make whatever they paid me 10 times
Exactly.
over, 100 times over.
Yeah.
So, yeah, don't undervalue yourself.
Yeah.
Good advice.
Good advice.
Yes.
Well, cool. All right. Well, thanks, man.
Yeah.
And thank you guys. We'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Or we'll be doing something else next week. Bye.
Yep. Bye.